By the time I found June, the airport had already started turning itself off around her. One set of automatic doors was locked. A custodian was mopping the same square of floor twice, keeping an eye on her without making it obvious. June sat beneath a bank of dead arrival screens with her coat folded under her and two suitcases in front of her knees. One was hers, the other was Tessa's. That was the first thing that bothered me. Not that my wife was sitting alone at 11:47 at night. Not that her phone had dropped to 3% before she called me. Not even that our daughter had promised to drive her home. It was that June was still guarding Tessa's suitcase. "You made good time," she said. I stood there with my truck keys in one hand, looking past her as if our daughter might come jogging through the empty terminal with a reasonable explanation and 2 cups of coffee. "Where is she?" June pressed her lips together. "Cal, don't be mad before we get in the truck." That was not an answer. It was also something June had been saying to me for most of our marriage, usually right before she explained why somebody else's bad behavior needed to be handled delicately. I took the handle of Tessa's suitcase. "How long have you been sitting here?" "Not that long." The custodian looked at me. He did not know June, but he knew that was a lie. I had been married to her for 42 years. I knew it too. The suitcase was so heavy it pulled my shoulder down. Tessa had packed for a 4-day trip, as if Charleston might suddenly outlaw laundry. June's smaller gray bag rolled behind me quietly. Tessa's big blue one had a damaged wheel that slapped the tile every few feet. Slap, slap, slap. June walked beside me in her sweater, rubbing her bare forearms. "Put your coat on," I said. "I'm fine. It's 38 degrees outside." I was sitting on it. I noticed. She took the coat from under her arm, but didn't put it on. That was June's version of compromise. She would accept the object of your concern while rejecting the concern itself. The parking garage was nearly empty. Our footsteps echoed. Somewhere on another level, a car alarm chirped and then stopped. I opened the passenger door of my truck. June didn't get in right away. She thought she'd only be a few minutes, she said. "Who?" She gave me a look. I lifted Tessa's suitcase into the bed. I'm asking because, at this point, I'd rather hear the sentence with all the nouns in it. June sighed. Ben was here. That stopped me. Our son-in-law had not been part of the pickup plan. As far as I knew, Ben wasn't supposed to be at the airport at all. He and Tessa had been having what June called a rough patch, which could mean anything from a disagreement about cabinet handles to one of them sleeping in a hotel. "He met the flight?" I asked. "He met Tessa, and then?" "He wanted to talk, so they left. He was upset, and they left. Cal." I closed the tailgate harder than necessary. Not a slam, a firm mechanical conclusion. June climbed into the truck. I went around to the driver's side and got in, but I didn't start the engine. "She told me she was taking you home." "She was. You're not home. I'm aware of that." "How did she think you were getting there?" June pulled the seatbelt across her chest. She said she was going to circle back. I looked through the windshield at a concrete pillar painted with a red C and the number 4. "From where?" "Dinner." I turned toward her. "She and Ben had a reservation," June said. "He'd planned something. They needed to talk, and apparently the restaurant was holding the table. She left you at the airport to keep a dinner reservation. When you say it that way, it sounds accurate." June clicked the seatbelt into place. "Can we please go home?" I started the truck. The clock on the dashboard read 11:56. Tessa had left her mother at passenger pickup around 11, according to the little pieces of truth I was extracting one at a time. Airport security had made June move inside because cars could not wait at the curb. Tessa had said she would come back after dropping Ben at the restaurant. Then she had stopped answering. June had waited 47 minutes before calling me. I knew because I checked the call time at the first red light. "You could have called sooner," I said. "I thought she was coming back. You could have called after 10 minutes, and then you would have driven all the way out here while she was circling." "She wasn't circling." "We know that now. I knew it when I saw you sitting under a television that wasn't even turned on." June turned toward the passenger window. Columbus after midnight looked scrubbed clean of people. The hotel shuttles were lined up along the curb with their headlights off. A plastic shopping bag blew across an empty lane and caught itself around a signpost. I kept both hands on the wheel. When I'm angry, I get quieter. That sounds admirable until you've lived with it. June once told me I could make silence feel like a room somebody had been locked inside. I had been trying for years to leave a door open. You hungry? I asked. No. You eat on the plane? Pretzels. That isn't food. It had a picture of wheat on the bag. I almost smiled. June saw it and leaned back against the headrest, relieved she had gotten something ordinary out of me. Her phone chimed. We both looked down at it in her lap. The screen lit her face from below. She read the message without touching it. Then she turned the phone face down. That her? I asked. Yes. What did she say? We can read it at home. What did she say, June? She picked the phone up again. She said Ben was in no condition to drive by himself, and once they got downtown, she assumed I would order a car. She assumed. That's what she wrote. Anything else? June scrolled with her thumb. I waited. She asked if we got her suitcase. There it was. Tessa's explanation had arrived 8 minutes after I had. Not an emergency, not an accident, not a dead phone or a flat tire or a sudden trip to the hospital. She had looked at her mother, looked at her husband, and decided one of them could wait. Then she'd gone to dinner and built an excuse around the decision. I drove through the green light. June had retired 12 days earlier. For 31 years, she had worked in patient scheduling at St. Catherine's, a job that required her to explain to angry people why a doctor could not be in two places at the same time. She was good at it because she could make a person feel heard without promising anything. I used to tell her she could talk a raccoon out of a garbage can. She never found that funny. Her last day, the women in her department decorated her cubicle with paper clocks and a banner that said, "June's time is finally her own." Tessa read it aloud at the retirement dinner and said, "Not all of it, I hope." Everybody laughed, including June. At the time, I thought Tessa meant she wanted to spend more time with her mother. That was how she presented the Charleston trip. 4 days, just the two of them, her gift to June. She's spent her whole life taking care of everybody else, Tessa said when she showed us the reservation. We were at our kitchen table. She had printed the flight details and tucked them inside a card with a watercolor painting of a pink house. Tessa liked a presentation. Even bad news from her usually arrived in a nice envelope. June read the flight information twice. "You booked it already?" she asked. "Non-refundable," Tessa said cheerfully. "So you can't talk yourself out of it." June did not like flying. She would do it, but she prepared as if she were entering a controlled medical trial. She studied the seat map. She checked the weather in every city the plane might conceivably pass over. She wore shoes she could remove quickly, then worried that removing them quickly was something only suspicious people practiced. Tessa knew all that. "You'll be with me," she told her. "I'll handle everything." I was sitting right there when she said it. I remembered because Tessa pointed at me and added, "Dad, you are not allowed to show up at the airport 2 hours early and make her nervous. Being early prevents nervousness. No, being early gives Mom more time to imagine the wing falling off. The wing is generally attached before passengers board." June slid the card back into its envelope. "I'd like to see Charleston." Tessa reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Then it's settled. The morning they left, I drove them to the airport anyway. Tessa complained the whole way, mostly for sport. I carried both suitcases to the curb. The blue one had a good wheel then. Don't let her drink coffee before the flight, I told Tessa. June said, I'm standing here. And don't let her read the safety card more than once. I like to know where the exits are. Tessa hooked an arm through her mother's. I'll bring her back relaxed. I kissed June goodbye. Tessa was already checking her phone. For the first 2 days, June called me every evening. She said the hotel was lovely. She said they had walked along the water and eaten shrimp and grits. She described a church courtyard and a bookstore with crooked floors. But she never put me on speaker. Whenever I asked where Tessa was, June said she was showering downstairs or answering a work message. Once, while June was telling me about a garden tour, I heard Tessa in the background say, Mom, are you coming or not? June lowered her voice. I should go. Everything okay? Of course. You sound tired. We've been walking. Then she told me she loved me and hung up before I could ask anything else. The third night, she didn't call. She sent a text at 1:14 in the morning that said, long day. All good. See you tomorrow. All good was June's emergency blanket. She threw it over anything she did not want examined. I had offered to pick them up when they returned, but Tessa insisted their flight got in too late. You don't need to be driving out there at midnight, she told me over the phone that afternoon. I have my car. I'm bringing Mom straight home. Straight home. Now June sat beside me with cold hands and swollen eyes while our daughter ate dinner downtown. At home, I carried both suitcases into the garage. June went straight to the kitchen and filled the kettle, even though it was after midnight. She did things in order when she was upset: kettle, mugs, tea bags, spoon. I set Tessa's blue suitcase beside the washing machine. "You can leave that in the truck," June said. "She'll come for it tomorrow. She can find it in the garage. She knows the keypad code." "I know." June took off her coat. There was a dark smudge across the back from the airport floor. She noticed me looking at it and folded the coat so the mark disappeared inside. "Don't call her tonight," she said. "I wasn't going to. Don't text her either. I'm not the one she owes a call." The kettle began its low electric rumble. June braced both hands against the counter. "I didn't tell you everything," she said. "About tonight?" She shook her head. The kitchen light caught the gray at her temples. 4 days earlier, she had left this room smiling because our daughter had promised to take care of her. "The whole trip," June said. "It wasn't what I told you." I waited. She looked toward the garage, where Tessa's suitcase stood, like its owner had already come home. "She made me promise not to tell you." "Why?" June reached for the box of tea and took out 2 bags. She put one in each mug, though I had not asked for tea. "Why what? Why did she make you promise?" "She didn't want you worrying. That's never been Tessa's main concern about me." The kettle clicked off. June poured the water too fast and splashed some across the counter. I pulled a dish towel from the drawer. She took it out of my hand. "I've got it." I let go. She wiped the counter, then kept wiping after the water was gone. "Ben told her he needed space before we left," she said. "He asked her not to call him for the weekend. And she called him from the airport. Here or Charleston?" "Both." June carried the mugs to the table. She set mine in front of the chair I usually used, then sat across from it. I joined her. The tea smelled like apples and cinnamon. It was the kind Tessa bought June every Christmas because the box looked expensive. June preferred plain black tea, but had never told her. "She said they'd been fighting more than usual," June continued. "She didn't want me mentioning it to you because you'd form an opinion about Ben. Do I not already have one?" "That's what I told her? What is my opinion?" "You like him?" "I do." That was the problem. I picked up the mug, though it was too hot to drink. She thought I'd take his side. She thought you'd ask what she'd done. I would, yes. June said it quietly, without accusation, which made it sound more like one. What had she done? She'd been reading his messages. I looked at her. "Not secretly," she added. "At least not the way you're thinking. Ben gave her the passcode years ago. She checks when he leaves his phone around, and he knows she does it. Then he gets angry, changes the code. She gets angry that he changed it, and they spend 3 days arguing about whether changing it proves there was something to find. That sounds exhausting. It is. For you, for everyone." I tried the tea. It tasted like somebody had boiled a candle. June wrapped both hands around her mug. He'd been talking to his sister about their marriage. Tessa found the messages and felt betrayed. "Tessa talks to you about their marriage." I pointed that out. "How'd that go?" "We missed our dinner reservation." A tired smile moved across her face and disappeared. On their first afternoon in Charleston, Tessa had received a message from Ben saying he hoped they could use the weekend to cool off. She decided cool off meant he was happier without her. She called him from the hotel bathroom and made June sit on the bed while she did it. When Ben wouldn't argue, Tessa handed the phone to June. "What was I supposed to say?" June asked me. He said, "June, I love you, but I'm not discussing my marriage with my mother-in-law." I told him I understood. That sounds reasonable? Tessa didn't think so. She had accused June of embarrassing her. Then she had cried, apologized, and asked if they could start the trip over. June agreed. They went to dinner without a reservation and waited an hour for a table. The next morning, Tessa woke June at 6 because Ben had turned off the location sharing on his phone. "Why were they sharing locations?" I asked. "They always have." "Why?" "I don't know, Cal. People do now. Do we? You once called me from Kroger because you couldn't find the car. That parking lot is badly designed." She gave me the first real smile I had seen since the airport. It didn't last. Tessa spent the morning studying the little dot that no longer existed on her screen. She asked June whether Ben might be seeing someone else. June told her there was no reason to think that. Tessa asked if June believed she was difficult to love. There was no safe answer to that one. June tried anyway. I told her she could be difficult when she was frightened, she said. I meant all of us can be. She heard just the first half. She always hears the first half. Tessa left the hotel room and did not answer for 3 hours. June went to the garden tour alone. That was the courtyard she had described to me over the phone. She had stood beside a fountain while a volunteer explained which bricks had survived an earthquake, and she had wanted to call me. Why didn't you? June traced one finger around the rim of her mug. Because I knew you'd hear something in my voice. I did hear something. You hear it. Then you start pulling. So, I'm supposed to hear it and ignore it? No, you're supposed to let me decide when I'm ready to say it. She looked at me then, not angry exactly. Too tired for anger. I sat back. The refrigerator kicked on behind us. There was a soft ticking from the stove as the metal cooled. Our house had never seemed especially quiet to me until that night. Tessa came back, June said. We apologized to each other. What did you apologize for? Taking Ben's side? Did you? It felt like that to her. That isn't what I asked. June lifted her mug and drank. The second day had gone better until lunch, when Ben sent Tessa a short message asking if they could talk when she got home. Tessa wanted June to help write a reply that would be warm but not desperate. June suggested, "Call me when you're ready." Tessa said it sounded cold. June suggested, "I'd like that." Tessa said it sounded weak. For 40 minutes they discussed 2 sentences, neither of them sent. Tessa finally wrote, "Maybe," and then spent the rest of lunch furious when Ben did not respond. "I should have put my phone in the river," June said. "That I would have paid to see. It crossed my mind. Those phones are waterproof now. I would have held it under." I laughed once and June did too. It came out wrong in the empty kitchen, too sharp and too late, like laughter at a funeral when your body gets tired of behaving. Then she covered her mouth. She was hurting, she said. I know, she really was. I believe you. And Ben shouldn't have shown up tonight without warning. He's not the one who promised to drive you home. No, and he had a car, presumably one with a back seat. June looked toward the hallway. What? I asked. He said he wanted to talk to her alone. He was standing in the airport with flowers after asking for space? Yes. What kind? What? The flowers? I don't know. White ones. Funeral flowers. They weren't funeral flowers. White flowers after a weekend of not speaking is a mixed message. That's what Tessa said. Of course it was. When they came through the security doors, Ben had been waiting near the escalators. He hugged Tessa before he acknowledged June. Tessa cried. Ben cried. June stood beside them, holding both boarding bags until Ben remembered to take one. He had arranged a late table downtown. He told Tessa he wanted to talk without their phones and without anyone else involved. Anyone else had been standing 3 feet away. Tessa asked June if she minded waiting while they went outside. June thought they were having a private conversation near the car. 10 minutes later, Tessa pulled up to the curb in Ben's sedan and jumped out. She said she had to go with him, June told me. She said she would drive him to dinner, get him settled, and come right back. In his car? Yes. So, how was she planning to take you home? I didn't think to ask. She wasn't. Maybe she meant to order me something. She told me this afternoon she was bringing you straight home. I know what she told you. June pushed her mug away. There were certain moments in our marriage when I had mistaken restraint for kindness. I would stop speaking because I was afraid of what I might say. June would experience the silence as judgment, supply both sides of the argument herself, and eventually apologize just to get the room moving again. I could feel us entering one of those moments. I stood and carried my mug to the sink. You're angry with me, June said. No. You washed down half a sip of tea. It's terrible tea. Tessa gave me that. I know. She stared at the steam rising from her cup. There it is. What? That tone. What tone? The one that says you've finished considering the evidence. I'm not angry with you. You're angry at me. I am angry that you sat at an airport for almost an hour because you were more worried about inconveniencing Tessa than calling your husband. Her chair moved back. You think I enjoyed it? No. You think I don't know how it looked? I think you're still making it look better. I was trying to give my daughter one evening to save her marriage. She had 4 days. She used yours. June stood. This is why she didn't want me telling you. So, you agree with her? I knew you would turn it into a ruling. She left you there. And you want a clean crime with a clean sentence because then you get to be useful. That landed cleanly enough. June carried her tea to the sink and poured it out beside mine. You don't want to hear how she was all weekend, she said. You want the part that tells you what to do. What do you want me to do? Nothing tonight. I already said I wouldn't call. I don't only mean Tessa. She rinsed both mugs. I dried them because standing there doing nothing felt worse. When we went upstairs, June took her toiletries from her suitcase but left the rest packed. She washed her face while I turned down the bed. We moved around each other with the practiced politeness of people sharing a hotel room. She lay on her side facing away from me. At 1:38, she said, "Are you awake?" "Yes." I was scared. I kept my voice level. "At the airport? I knew you'd come. I just hated that she knew it too." I reached across the space between us and rested my hand on her shoulder. She covered it with hers, but did not turn around. Neither of us slept much. At 8:16 the next morning, the garage door opened. Not the overhead door, the door from the garage into the kitchen. Tessa still knew the keypad code because we had never imagined a reason she shouldn't. "Hello?" she called. "It's me. I was at the stove ruining scrambled eggs." June was upstairs in the shower. Tessa walked in wearing black pants and the same cream sweater she had traveled in. Her hair was pulled into a knot. She looked tired, but not stranded at an airport tired. She glanced at the coffee maker. "Is that fresh?" "No." The pot had finished brewing 2 minutes earlier. She looked at me. "Okay, your suitcase is beside the washing machine." "Thanks. Is Mom asleep?" "Shower." Tessa opened the cabinet and took out a mug. She poured coffee anyway. "I texted her," she said. "I saw. Ben was a mess." I turned off the burner. "Your mother was alone, I know, and I feel awful. But I honestly thought she'd call a car. She thought you were coming back. I said I'd try. You said you were circling back." Tessa added cream to her coffee and stirred it carefully. "Dad, I can't do this with you if you've already decided what happened." The stairs creaked behind us. June came into the kitchen wearing her robe, her damp hair combed straight back. Tessa's face softened. "Mom, I'm so sorry." June stopped near the table. Tessa put down the spoon. Everything happened so fast. Ben was crying, the reservation was about to disappear, and I knew Dad would come get you. June looked at her for a long moment. "That," she said, "is the part you need to hear yourself say." Tessa's eyes moved to me, asking for translation or rescue. Maybe both. I left the eggs in the pan. "I came," I said, "because you didn't." Tessa stared at me as if I had spoken to her in somebody else's voice. "That's unfair." "No," June said. "It's plain. I was coming back. You went downtown. I was going to get you a car. You didn't. I forgot, Mom. I was upset." June pulled out a chair and sat at the kitchen table. Her robe was tied wrong, one side hanging lower than the other. I had seen her sick, grieving, furious, and once laughing so hard at a church potluck that she had to hide in the ladies' room. I had rarely seen her look uncertain in her own kitchen. Tessa remained beside the counter with the coffee mug in both hands. I said, "I'm sorry. You said you knew your father would come, because he always does." Tessa looked at me again, like that ought to flatter me. June nodded slowly. "Exactly. What does that mean?" "It means leaving me there became acceptable because somebody else would fix it. I did not leave you on the side of a highway. You were inside an airport. The doors were locking. There were people around. One custodian and security. There's always security. Then why didn't you come back?" Tessa opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The eggs began to smoke behind me. I picked up the pan and moved it to a cold burner. There was a black skin on the bottom. Tessa watched me scrape it with the spatula. "You always do this," she said. I turned. "Burn eggs? Make everything sound worse by saying less." "Tessa," June warned. "No, Mom. This is why I didn't want him involved. I knew he'd decide I was some terrible daughter without asking what was going on with me. I know what was going on with you. You know 1 weekend. I know 4 days of it." Tessa flinched. June had not raised her voice. She did not need to. Tessa set her coffee down, and some of it climbed the inside of the mug. "You told him." "I told my husband what happened to me. You promised. You asked me to lie before I understood what I was agreeing to. I asked you not to share private details about my marriage. You handed me the phone while you argued with Ben. That was one time. It was Thursday. Fine. And Friday. That wasn't an argument. He asked you to stop calling. You asked me to explain why you kept calling." Tessa crossed her arms. So, this is about Charleston now? I thought this was about the airport. It's about me not being the place you put everything you don't want to carry. The room went still. I looked at June. She looked surprised by the sentence herself. Tessa sat across from her. The anger drained from her face so quickly that for a second she seemed much younger. Not because she looked young, but because she looked caught. You said I could talk to you. You can. You said you'd always be here. I am. Then what are you saying? I'm saying being here doesn't mean I can be inside your marriage. I never asked you to be. June's eyebrows lifted. Tessa looked away first. The refrigerator door was covered with ordinary evidence of how often she had asked. A magnet from Asheville held a restaurant menu, where she and Ben celebrated their 5th anniversary. A photo strip from a Christmas party showed the four of us making increasingly foolish faces. Tessa had put a note under one corner months earlier. Remind me to ask you what Ben meant. June had left it there. You don't know what it's like, Tessa said. What's like? When somebody won't fight for you? June's voice softened. Ben came to the airport with flowers. After 3 days of ignoring me, he asked for space, he turned off his location. That was his space. You don't understand. Maybe not. Tessa blinked. She was not prepared for June to agree. June folded her hands in front of her. That's why you need to talk to him. Not me. I do talk to him. You talk to me about what you want to say to him. Then you get angry when I don't make him hear it the right way. So I'm not supposed to call you anymore? That isn't what I said. It sounds like it. You can call me about you. You can call me about your day, your work, the strange woman who keeps stealing your yogurt from the office refrigerator. You can call because you miss me. Tessa gave a short, unhappy laugh. I don't call you about yogurt. That was my point. The line hurt her. I saw it land before June did. Tessa stood so abruptly that the chair legs scraped the floor. I came here to apologize. You came for your suitcase, I said. June turned toward me. Cal. What? She asked where it was before she asked how you were. I asked if Mom was asleep. You asked after the suitcase. I knew she was safe. June pressed 2 fingers against her forehead. Stop. Tessa and I both stopped. She looked at me first. I don't need you to prosecute this. Then she looked at Tessa. And I don't need you to make one apology sound like a favor. Tessa's jaw worked. Fine, she said. I left you. I made a selfish decision. I thought my marriage might be ending, and for 1 hour I put that ahead of everything else. I am sorry. June lowered her hand. Thank you. But I'm not going to stand here while Dad acts like he's never made you wait. That one was meant for me. But June answered, he has. Tessa's eyes sharpened with relief. Exactly. He has also apologized without explaining why I shouldn't have been hurt. I could think of several occasions when I had done the explaining first. June could too. Her generosity was making the record cleaner than it was. Tessa pushed her chair in. Are you and Dad just one person now? No. It feels like you've teamed up. We've been married 42 years. Occasionally we agree. Not about me. There it was, quiet and nearly childlike, except there was nothing childish about the skill behind it. Tessa knew which words could pull June across a room. June's fingers tightened around each other, but she stayed seated. This is not against you, she said. It doesn't feel that way. I'm not going to keep secrets from your father to make it easier for you to use me as a go-between. I'm not going to answer Ben for you, and if you tell me you're bringing me home, I expect you to bring me home. So, there are rules now. There were always rules. I just didn't say them. You didn't have to. We trusted each other. June looked toward the garage door. I trusted you last night. Tessa picked up her coffee, realized she did not want it, and set it down again. Ben and I might separate. June's face changed. Tessa saw it and pressed on. He says he can't breathe. Those were his words. He says every argument turns into a committee meeting. He says he doesn't know if he's talking to me or talking to you through me. Tess, June said. No, you wanted me to talk about me. That's me. My husband thinks I'm so impossible he needs air from me. I'm sorry. Are you? Of course I am. But you won't help. June's eyes filled. I have been trying to help. It is making things worse. For who? All of us. Tessa stood there waiting for her mother to take it back. June did not. I wish I could say Tessa shouted or threw the mug. That would have made the morning simpler. Instead, she carried it to the sink, rinsed it, and put it in the dishwasher. She had always been tidy when furious. "I'll get my bag," she said. The damaged wheel struck the step from the garage. Thump, slap, slap. Tessa dragged it through the kitchen, passing within a foot of June. June started to rise. I put one hand on the back of her chair. She looked at it, then at me. I removed it. Tessa opened the door to the driveway. "Enjoy your eggs," she said, and left. A few seconds later, the blue suitcase bumped down the front step. Her car started. She did not slam the door or spin the tires. Tessa never left a scene looking as angry as she wanted you to feel. June remained at the table. I scraped the eggs into the trash. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. "Cooked? Put your hand on my chair." "I know. You were keeping me from going after her. I thought that was what you wanted." "I didn't know what I wanted. I know that too." She turned in the chair. "Then why did you decide?" "I set the pan in the sink." It would have been easy to say I was trying to help. That phrase had gotten a lot of use in our house over the years. It usually meant I had chosen a solution before anybody else finished describing the problem. "I'm sorry," I said. June waited, possibly expecting the explanation. I kept my mouth shut. After a moment, she nodded. I made another batch of eggs. The second attempt was edible, though June only pushed hers around the plate. We ate without speaking. Her phone sat between us on the table, dark and quiet. By noon, she had checked it 14 times. I counted because counting was easier than asking. At 3, Tessa sent a message. June was folding clothes from her suitcase on the bed. She read the screen, sat down, and read it again. "What is it?" I asked. Ben wrote her an email. I folded one of my old t-shirts even though it had not gone to Charleston. And she wants me to tell her what I think he means. June's thumbs hovered over the screen. I took my shirt to the dresser. I wanted to tell her what to write. I had 3 versions ready, all of them concise. She began typing, stopped, deleted it, typed again. Finally, she turned the screen toward me. "You need to ask Ben." "That's good," I said. "Is it cruel?" "No, she's scared. I know." June looked at the message for another few seconds, then pressed send. The reply came almost immediately. "Never mind." June set the phone beside her and picked up one of Tessa's shirts by mistake. It had gotten mixed into her suitcase, a soft green blouse rolled tightly between 2 pairs of pants. She held it against her chest. Then she folded it with careful exact corners and placed it in a separate pile. The green blouse stayed on top of our dresser. "Do you want me to take it over?" I asked. June smoothed the collar with one finger. "No, I could leave it on her porch." "I know how delivery works, Cal." I nodded and carried an armful of dirty clothes downstairs. That was the trouble with trying not to solve things. Most of my conversation had been built out of solutions. Take those away, and I was left making observations about the weather or pointing out objects other people could already see. The washing machine had 6 buttons. June used 2 of them. I studied all 6, selected normal, and added detergent up to the line marked for a large load. 10 minutes later, soap came crawling from beneath the lid. June found me on my knees with 3 towels pressed against the floor. "What happened?" The machine disagreed with my methodology. She looked at the detergent bottle. "That's concentrate. I'm aware of that now." "How much did you use?" An amount that seemed optimistic. She made a sound that was almost a laugh and took another towel from the drawer. "I've got it," I said. "I can see that." She knelt beside me anyway. We cleaned the floor without mentioning Tessa. When the cycle finally ended, every piece of clothing smelled aggressively like spring rain. I folded what I could. June refolded most of it later when she thought I wasn't looking. Retirement had left her with no idea what to do on weekday mornings. She still woke at 5:40. She showered, dressed, and was downstairs before sunrise, then seemed offended to find the day waiting for her with nothing urgent in it. I had been retired 4 years. My first month, I rebuilt the workbench in the garage, organized every screw I owned, and drove June nearly crazy by asking what she wanted for lunch while she was eating breakfast. Eventually, I found a rhythm: coffee, newspaper, a walk if my knee agreed. Small repairs for people who understood that free work took longer. June had not found hers. She wiped counters that were already clean. She checked her phone, put it down, walked out of the room, and came back to check it again. Tessa did not call. On Wednesday morning, June's phone began chiming while we were at the grocery store. We were standing in the cereal aisle. June had been reading the side of a granola box as if it might contain a private message. "What is it?" I asked. "Group text? Work?" She turned the screen toward herself. "Tessa." The messages kept arriving. Tessa had started a group with us, Ben's sister Mara, and June's sister Colleen. "Sunday still works for everybody, right?" Mara answered first with a thumbs up. Colleen wrote, "Looking forward to celebrating the retiree." Ben did not respond. June read the messages twice. "What's Sunday?" I asked. Her face told me she had hoped I knew. "I think it's dinner." "Here?" "That's what it sounds like." I took the granola box from her and put it in the cart. "Did you invite people?" "No." "Did I?" "You once invited a man from the hardware store to Thanksgiving. He was new in town. He had a wife and a dinner to go to. He looked lonely. That isn't the point." Her phone chimed again. Tessa wrote, 6 o'clock. "Dad, don't make chili. Mom and I already talked about food." I looked at June. She moved the cart to the side so a woman could pass us. "Did you?" "Not exactly." "What does not exactly mean?" "In Charleston, she mentioned having everyone over to celebrate my retirement. I thought she meant at her house. She told everybody ours. I can see that." "Did she ask?" "She said, 'We should do something Sunday.'" Then Ben called. I reached for my phone. June caught my wrist. "What are you doing?" "Telling her Sunday doesn't work. I can tell her." I put my phone away. June began typing. She stopped when the little dots appeared, indicating Tessa was typing too. "Can you make that chicken with the lemon?" "Ben likes it." June's mouth tightened. She typed, "We aren't able to host Sunday." The response was immediate. "Why not?" June looked at me. I looked at the cereal shelves. Cornflakes were less complicated. She wrote, "We weren't asked." The dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. "We talked about it in Charleston. We talked about having dinner. We did not agree it would be at our house." Another pause. "Okay." I misunderstood. June let out a breath. Then Tessa added, "I'll cancel everything." Mara sent, "I can host if needed." Tessa replied privately before June could answer the group. "Are you serious?" June read it and locked the phone. "You should answer," I said. "I thought you were practicing not telling me what to do." "I'm not practicing." I stopped. She gave me a look. "I'm in the recovery phase," I said. We continued down the aisle. At the end, June stopped the cart beside a pyramid of canned tomatoes and opened Tessa's message again. "This is a dinner for you. I was trying to do something nice." June typed, "Then you should have asked me what I wanted." She stared at the sentence for several seconds before sending it. Tessa responded, "Forget it." June put her phone in her purse. We made it to frozen foods before she took it out again. "She hasn't written anything else," she said. "I didn't ask." "I'm telling you." "All right, she thinks I'm punishing her." "Are you?" "No." June opened a freezer door and stood in front of rows of peas. Cold air spilled around her legs. "Then close the door," I said. She closed it harder than necessary. "You are enjoying this." "What?" "You like watching me say no to her." "I don't like watching any of this." "There's a little part of you that does." I wanted to deny it. The problem was, there was a little part of me that did. Not because June was hurting Tessa, because June was finally proving something I had believed for years, that our daughter asked too much of her. Every refusal felt like evidence that I had been right. June saw the answer before I gave it. "This isn't a contest," she said. "I know. You don't get to win because I'm having a hard time with our daughter. I know that too." A freezer door down the aisle began beeping because someone had left it open. June pushed the cart toward produce. I followed. We bought no peas. That afternoon, a woman named Nadine called June from St. Catherine's. I knew Nadine mostly as a loud voice emerging from June's phone, and as the owner of an orange scarf she forgot at our house every December. June spoke to her for 20 minutes in the living room. At first they discussed the scheduling department. A new employee had double-booked an orthopedic surgeon and blamed the computer. June sat straighter as she explained exactly where the mistake had happened. Then Nadine asked a question I couldn't hear. June glanced toward me. "I haven't used it yet," she said. A pause. "I know. I said I would." Another pause. "All right, send me the information." When the call ended, June remained on the couch, looking at a small stack of retirement cards on the coffee table. "What haven't you used?" I asked. "The studio certificate." "What studio?" She held up a card decorated with fingerprints in different colors. The women in her department had given her a 6-week introductory class at a ceramic studio in Grandview. June had taken pottery in college. I knew because somewhere in our basement, we had a crooked brown bowl she made in 1980 and refused to throw away. I thought that was for a craft store, I said. You didn't read the card? It had fingerprints on it. I assumed children were involved. They're thumbprints from my coworkers. That does not improve it. June smiled. Nadine sent the class schedule. There was an opening Friday night. You should go, I said. June glanced at me. That was an opinion, I said, not an instruction. I know, I can drive you. She kept looking. Or not. I can drive myself. Good. I mean, thank you, but I can. I heard you. Friday evening, June changed clothes 3 times. The studio website recommended wearing something that could get dirty. June interpreted this as a test of which old shirt she was willing to sacrifice. She finally chose one of mine. That shirt survived 2 transmissions and a radiator hose, I told her. Clay doesn't stand a chance. It's already stained. That's history. It's grease. She left at 5:30 with her hair pulled back and the certificate folded in her purse. I stood at the front window as her car backed out. She saw me and rolled down the window. You don't need to watch me leave. I always watch you leave. Why? In case you hit the mailbox. I've never hit the mailbox. That's because I watch. She shook her head and drove away. I made myself a sandwich and ate it over the sink. The house sounded different when June was out by choice. It was not the same quiet as the night she sat at the airport. That quiet had felt abandoned. This one felt occupied by something I could not see. At 8:20, she came through the front door carrying a lump wrapped in damp newspaper. What is that? I asked. A bowl. It seems undecided. It has to be fired. In a kiln or from its position. She laughed and set it carefully on the counter. There was clay under her fingernails and a gray streak near her chin. She looked tired, but not in the way she had looked after Charleston. Then she took out her phone. 4 missed calls, all from Tessa. June's face emptied. The voicemail played through the speaker before she could lower the volume. Mom, I know you're mad, but I need you to call me. Ben packed a bag. He won't tell me where he's going, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Please don't make this harder just because of what happened. June called immediately. Tessa answered on the first ring. Where were you? At a class. What class? It doesn't matter. Are you safe? I'm home. Ben left. Did he say where he was going? No. He said he needed 3 nights where nobody contacted him. June closed her eyes. Tessa's voice broke. Mom, can you call him? June opened her eyes again. No, she said. The silence on the phone lasted long enough that I could hear Tessa breathing. No what? She asked. I'm not calling Ben. He'll answer you. That's part of the problem. So, you're just going to leave me here by myself? June leaned against the kitchen counter. The unfinished bowl sat beside her, still wrapped in wet newspaper. I asked if you were safe. I said yes. Have you eaten? What does that matter? It matters to me. I don't want a sandwich, Mom. I want my husband to come home. I can't make him do that. You could try. He asked for 3 nights. If I call him, I'm helping you ignore the one thing he clearly asked for. Tessa made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. Did Dad tell you to say that? June looked at me. I shook my head, not because she needed the answer, but because Tessa's question irritated me. No, June said. Your father has not told me what to say. Then why are you talking like him? I'm talking like myself. You don't sound like yourself? June flinched. I moved toward the phone. She put up one hand without looking at me. Do you want to come here? She asked. Is Dad there? It's his house too. That wasn't my question. Yes, he's here. Then no. All right, I can stay on the phone for a while. And listen to me breathe. If that's what you need, I need you to call Ben. I won't. Then I don't know why I called. You called because you were frightened. No. I called because I thought my mother would help me. The line went dead. June kept the phone against her ear for a few seconds. Then she set it on the counter beside the bowl. That was cruel, I said. She's scared. Scared people can be cruel. I know. The doorbell rang 12 minutes later. Tessa stood on our porch in gray sweatpants, a black raincoat, and the white sneakers she normally refused to wear outside the gym. She had no makeup on. Her hair hung loose around her face, and she carried a bottle of wine by the neck. I didn't want to be alone, she said. June opened the door wider. Tessa walked straight into her arms. June held her. Her eyes closed, and one hand moved up and down Tessa's back the way it always had. There are habits so old the body performs them before the mind gets a vote. I took the wine from Tessa's hand. "Have you eaten?" I asked. She shook her head against June's shoulder. "I'll make something. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask that." She pulled away from June and wiped under her eyes. "Toast, maybe." We moved to the kitchen. June sat beside Tessa at the table while I put bread in the toaster. I made 4 slices because nobody who requested 1 slice of toast had ever needed only 1. Tessa looked at the lump on the counter. "What's that?" "My bowl," June said. "You made a bowl?" "I started one." "When?" "Tonight?" Tessa stared at it as if the clay had personally withheld support. "What kind of class was it? Pottery? You used to do pottery?" "A long time ago. You never told me that." June smiled without much humor. "You never asked." The toaster popped. I buttered 2 slices and put them on a plate. Tessa tore off one corner, rolled it between her fingers, and left it on the plate. "Tell me what happened," June said. Tessa took a long breath. Ben had come home from work quieter than usual. He warmed leftover pasta and ate standing at the kitchen counter. Tessa waited for him to mention the canceled Sunday dinner. When he didn't, she asked whether he had seen the group messages. He said he had. She asked why he had not defended her. "He said there was nothing to defend," Tessa told us. "He said, I volunteered your house like it was mine." June did not react. I told him you and I had discussed it, which we did. "We discussed dinner." "I know, Mom. I understand that now." Her tone said she understood nothing, except that the distinction had become inconvenient. Ben had said the argument was another example of how Tessa turned every private problem into a family event. She accused him of making her sound manipulative. He said he did not need to make her sound like anything. "That's when I asked if there was somebody else," Tessa said. "Why?" June asked. "Because people don't just shut off." "Did he answer?" "He said no." Then I asked to see his phone. I set a mug of tea in front of her. Tessa looked up at me. "You don't have to hover. I live here." "I know where you live, Dad." I took my coffee to the other end of the table. "He wouldn't show it to me," she continued. "He said if he gave me the phone, we'd be having the same fight next month." I said if he didn't give it to me, that proved there was something on it. "What did he say?" June asked. "He said that was a trap." "It was," I said. June gave me a warning look. Tessa pushed the toast away. "I didn't ask you." "No. You came to my kitchen and discussed it in front of me." "Cal," June said, "I'm going to the living room." I picked up my coffee. "Wait," Tessa said. I stopped in the doorway. She rubbed both palms over her face. "Do you think he's seeing someone?" "I have no reason to think that." "What about the phone? What about yours?" "My phone is completely open." "How many conversations with your mother would Ben enjoy reading?" Tessa lowered her hands. "That's different." "It always is when it's yours." June's chair scraped back. "I need both of you to stop." I'm trying to answer her honestly. "You're enjoying that too," June said. The accusation hit because it was close enough to the one in the grocery store. I carried my coffee into the living room and turned on a lamp I did not need. From the kitchen, I could still hear them. Tessa said Ben went upstairs, packed shirts and toiletries into a duffel bag, and told her he had reserved a room at a hotel near his office. 3 nights, no calls, no messages. On Monday, he would come home and they would discuss what happened next. "Monday?" June asked. "He said it like a business meeting. Maybe he needed a date so you'd know he wasn't disappearing. He left his wedding ring on. That seems important, or manipulative." "Tess." "What?" "It does." My phone buzzed on the side table. Ben's name appeared on the screen. I looked toward the kitchen. Tessa was facing away from me, but June saw my expression. "Who is it?" Tessa asked. I stood and walked toward the garage. "Dad." I closed the door behind me and answered beside the washing machine. "Ben, is she with you?" His voice sounded flat and worn. "Yes." "Is she okay?" "She's upset." "I know she's upset." "Is she safe?" "Yes." He exhaled. I could hear traffic somewhere behind him. "She called me 11 times, he said. Then the call stopped, and I didn't know if that meant she'd gone somewhere. She came here. I don't want you in the middle. You called me. I'm not asking you to explain anything to her. I just needed to know where she was. Then you know. Thank you. Ben." He waited. "If you don't want June in the middle, don't use me to check on Tessa." "That's fair. Are you safe?" A car horn sounded through his phone. Yeah, I'm at the hotel. You've got somewhere to sleep? Yes. You going to work tomorrow? I'm going to try. I leaned against the workbench. The green blouse was no longer on the dryer. June had moved it, though I did not know where. Did you know June didn't have a ride from the airport? I asked. He went quiet. I knew Tessa was arranging something. That isn't what I asked. I thought she was getting a car. Did you see June standing there? Another pause. Yes. The garage door opened behind me. Tessa stood barefoot on the step. Give me the phone. No. Is that Ben? I held up one hand. Ben said, I shouldn't have called. No, I said. You shouldn't have. I ended the call. Tessa came down the step. Give me your phone. He hung up. I want to see. You want to see what? How long you talked? I looked at the screen. 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Why did he call you? To ask if you were safe. Then why didn't he call me? You know why. Her face folded for a second, then hardened again. What else did he say? He's at the hotel. He plans to work tomorrow. Which hotel? I didn't ask. That's a lie. It isn't. You expect me to believe you talked to him for 2 minutes and didn't ask. I asked if he had somewhere to sleep. So, you do know where he is. In a hotel near his office. That's all he told me. Which office? Downtown or Westerville? Tessa, did you ask about the airport? June's voice came from the doorway. Tessa turned. June had heard enough. Why would he ask about that? Tessa said. I asked him, I said. Her eyes flashed. Of course you did. He saw your mother standing there. I know he saw her. And he left too. This is not about Mom. June stepped down into the garage. That is what you keep deciding. Tessa shook her head. My husband just walked out, and you're both still trying to make me pay for one bad night. I am standing here with you, June said. I invited you into my home. I offered food. I listened. Your father told you what Ben said. What exactly would count as being here for you? Call him. No? Then I guess we have our answer. Tessa went back into the kitchen. A moment later, the front door opened and closed. June followed, but by the time she reached the porch, Tessa was already backing out of the driveway. She stood outside in my stained work shirt, clay still beneath her fingernails. I came up behind her. Don't, she said. I wasn't going to say anything. That's not always better. She went inside. At midnight, I found her in the kitchen, wrapping the unfinished bowl with fresh newspaper. Tessa's uneaten toast was still on the plate. You should throw that out, I said. June looked at the toast. Probably. She did not move. I wanted to call him, she said. Ben? Yes. But you didn't. I wanted to. I leaned against the counter beside her. She said, I didn't sound like myself. You didn't. June looked at me. You sounded tired, I said. Maybe that's part of yourself too. Her eyes filled, but she nodded. The next morning, the doorbell rang at 7. Tessa stood on the porch again. This time she carried an overnight bag. I can't be in that house by myself, she said. Can I stay here until Monday? June looked back at me. I kept my hands at my sides. June kept looking at me. I kept my hands at my sides. Yes, she said. You can stay until Monday. Tessa's shoulders dropped. But we are not calling Ben for you. We are not carrying messages between you. If he contacts either of us, we will not hide it, and we will not turn it into a family meeting. Tessa looked down at the overnight bag. Can I come inside before we negotiate the treaty? It's one boundary. It sounded like 4. It's one idea. Tessa stepped across the threshold. I'm too tired to argue. That would be new, I said. June looked at me. I'll put coffee on. Our daughter's old bedroom had become a den 12 years earlier. After she told us keeping it unchanged made her feel as if we expected her marriage to fail. We took her seriously. I built shelves, moved in a desk, and donated the bed. The couch folded out, but the mattress was thin enough to reveal every bar underneath it. Tessa stood in the doorway. You got rid of my dresser? In 2013, June said. I know, it's just strange. You've stayed here since then. Not like this. June pulled clean sheets from the hall closet. Tessa reached for them, but June kept hold for half a second. I can make the bed, Tessa said. All right. June gave her the sheets. Tessa unfolded the couch and stared at the mattress. Do you have one of those foam things? No, I said. Dad. You asked. We have extra blankets, June offered. You can put them underneath. Tessa carried the bedding into the den and shut the door. June turned to me. What? Not every thought needs a passport. I answered a direct question. You enjoyed it. I'm starting to dislike that word. Then stop making it useful. She took another blanket from the closet and left it outside the den without knocking. Tessa slept until almost noon. June and I moved around the house quietly, though neither of us had been asked to. I read the same newspaper page 3 times. June cleaned the clay from under her fingernails with an old toothbrush, then unwrapped the bowl to inspect it. The thing had begun to look like a bowl, though one side leaned outward. Does it stay like that? I asked. It might change in the kiln. What happens if it doesn't? Then it leans. You can make that the side people don't see. That is not how pottery works. That's how furniture works. She rewrapped it. At 11:45, the den door opened. Tessa came out wearing my old Ohio State sweatshirt. She had found it in the closet, though I had not seen it in years. That's mine, I said. You gave it to me. I loaned it to you. In high school. I'm patient. She opened the refrigerator. There was something reassuring about watching her stand there too long, with the cold air pouring out. She had done that at 16, at 23, and the first Christmas after she married Ben. You could forget for a minute that the woman studying our leftovers had a husband in a hotel and an argument waiting for her on Monday. You have no food, she said. We have food, June said. You have ingredients. That's where food comes from. Tessa took out eggs, cheese, and a container of cut peppers. Do you want an omelet? June and I looked at each other. What? Tessa asked. Nothing, June said. Yes. I'd like one. Tessa cooked when she needed a task with a clear ending. She made 3 omelets, each one separately, wiping the pan between them. Mine had too much cheese. June's was neat enough to photograph. We ate at the table. Tessa kept her phone face down beside her plate. It vibrated twice. She didn't touch it. On the 3rd vibration, she picked it up so quickly, she knocked her fork to the floor. It's Mara, she said. June reached for the fork. Tessa got there first. What does she want? I asked. She's checking on Ben. How would you know how he is? She thinks I know where he's staying. Do you? No. Tessa read the message again. She says he called her yesterday. June took a bite of omelet. He's allowed to call his sister. I know that. You sound surprised. I'm not surprised. I just think it's interesting that talking to your family is suddenly healthy when Ben does it. Talking isn't the problem, June said. Apparently it is when I do it. You didn't only talk to me, you asked me to participate. Tessa set her phone down. I made breakfast. Can we have 20 minutes without discussing my personality? You brought it up, I said. Thank you, court reporter. She ate 3 more bites, then carried her plate to the sink. Her phone vibrated again. Mara was inviting her to lunch. Tessa read the message aloud, including the period at the end of the sentence. She used a period, she said. I looked at June. June said, It belongs there. Mara never uses periods in texts. She thinks they're aggressive. That's ridiculous. I agree, Dad, but it means something that she used one. What does it mean? She's angry. Or she completed a sentence. Tessa gave me the look she reserved for men who fail to understand civilization. June drank her coffee. Go to lunch, she said. What if she's trying to get information? Then don't give her any. What if Ben asked her to meet me? Ask her. That sounds paranoid. You were the one who suggested it. Tessa pressed her fingers against both temples. This is what he does. He creates a situation, then he leaves me to figure out what's really happening. Maybe what's really happening is his sister invited you to lunch, June said. Tessa declined the invitation. Sunday evening arrived without the dinner Tessa had planned in our house. The table stayed its usual size. No extra leaf, no lemon chicken, no relatives bringing wine and pretending not to know there was trouble. Colleen called around 4. June spoke to her from the kitchen while Tessa sat in the living room, close enough to hear. No, I'm not sick, June said. I just didn't want a dinner. A pause. I know Tessa meant well. Another pause. No, you don't need to talk to her. There's nothing to smooth over. Tessa's head turned slightly. June listened to her sister, then laughed at something unrelated. They discussed a leaking faucet and an old neighbor who had started wearing a cowboy hat for reasons nobody understood. When the call ended, June returned to the living room. You could have told her I misunderstood, Tessa said. I did tell her. You said you didn't want the dinner. I didn't. That makes it sound like I forced you. You announced it without asking. Tessa pulled the sleeves of my sweatshirt over her hands. I was trying to celebrate you. Then why didn't you ask what would make me feel celebrated? Because every time I ask what you want, you say, whatever is easiest. June sat in the chair across from her. That was true. Tessa saw it register and sat forward. You do. Christmas, birthdays, restaurants. You never choose. Then later I find out you were tired or didn't like the place or didn't want people over. How am I supposed to know? You're not. What does that mean? It means I'm supposed to tell you. Tessa leaned back. June did not defend herself. She did not turn the truth into a favor for Tessa either. She let it sit between them with responsibility on both sides. I should have spoken sooner, she said. That does not mean you get to ignore me now that I am speaking. Tessa looked down at the sweatshirt sleeves. I don't know who you are this week. June's face tightened. Neither do I. That night, Tessa slept badly. I heard the den door open at 2, then the refrigerator, then the television at a volume so low it was mostly light. I found her sitting on the couch with a bowl of cereal balanced on one knee. An old movie played without sound. You need anything? I asked. No. I started back toward the stairs. Dad? I turned. Why did you ask Ben about the airport? He was there. It was between me and Mom. It was until you used me as the reason leaving her was acceptable. I didn't say acceptable. You said you knew I'd come. I did know. That's not the same as arranging it. She put the cereal bowl on the coffee table. Do you think I'm a bad person? No. You didn't even think about it. I have thought about very little else since Friday. And I think you did a bad thing and keep trying to make your reasons more important than what you did. Tessa stared at the silent television. Mom told me to go. I sat in the chair across from her. What? At the airport. When Ben said he wanted to talk, I asked her if it was okay. She said, Go, I'll be fine. Did you tell her you were going downtown? I said I'd come back. Then you didn't. No. We sat with that. She always says she's fine, Tessa whispered. I know. How was I supposed to know this time was different? I thought of June in the grocery store, telling me she had never said what she wanted. I thought of the locked airport doors and her coat folded beneath her. You could have come back, I said. Tessa wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. You make it sound so simple. The decision was simple. Everything around it wasn't. She picked up the cereal again, but it had gone soft. Mom never left you, she said. No. You don't know what this feels like. No. I stood. She had reasons to, I said, more than once. Tessa looked up, startled. I regretted the sentence as soon as it left me. Not because it was false, but because it was June's truth to tell, if she wanted to tell it. What reasons? Ask her. You brought it up, and I shouldn't have. Dad. Go to sleep, Tess. I went upstairs with her question following me. Monday afternoon, Tessa changed into black pants and a blue blouse before driving home to meet Ben. Not the green blouse from Charleston. That one was still on our dresser. She checked herself in the hallway mirror, smoothed her hair, and asked June if the blouse looked too formal. You look nice, June said. That wasn't what I asked. You look prepared. For what? I don't know. Tessa closed her eyes. Can you come with me? No, not inside. Just drive separately and wait nearby. No. What if it goes badly? Then you can call after you and Ben finish talking. You keep saying no, like you're proud of it. June's voice remained soft. I'm not proud. I'm tired. Tessa left without hugging either of us. The green blouse stayed upstairs. 2 hours later, we heard the damaged wheel before the front door opened. Slap, slap, slap. Tessa stood in the entry with the big blue suitcase, her overnight bag, and a garment bag draped over one arm. Her face was dry and stunned. He wants 2 weeks apart, she said. He asked me to stay somewhere else. June stepped forward, then stopped herself before reaching for any of the bags. Tessa looked down at the suitcase. This time, she carried it inside herself. June moved aside so Tessa could get through the entry. The suitcase wheel caught on the rug. Tessa pulled harder. The rug bunched beneath it, and the suitcase tipped toward the wall. I caught it before it hit. Let me carry that, I said. I have it. The wheel's bent. I know. You're dragging it. I know, Dad. She righted the suitcase and pulled it toward the den. Slap, slap, thud. The garment bag slid from her arm. June picked it up. Tessa looked at her, and for a second, they both seemed embarrassed. June was holding another one of her daughter's things without being asked. Tessa was relieved she had. I can take that, Tessa said. June handed it over. The den could hold the open couch or the open suitcase, but not both. Tessa discovered this after wrestling the blue case around the coffee table twice. You can keep the suitcase in the garage, I offered. I need my clothes. You could unpack them. Where? We had one empty drawer in the hall cabinet. June cleared two more by moving tablecloths into our bedroom. I brought up a wooden luggage stand from the basement. Tessa looked at the stand, the drawers, and the narrow strip of floor left beside the couch. 2 weeks, she said. June sat on the arm of the couch. That's what Ben asked for. He didn't say he'd let me come home after 2 weeks. He said we would talk again. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. We? June caught herself. You will, she said. You and Ben. Tessa unzipped the suitcase. The top layer was packed so neatly it looked untouched. She lifted out 2 pairs of shoes and placed them side by side beneath the desk. I need to say something before we settle in, June said. Tessa kept unpacking. This is your home when you need it, but it isn't going to become a place where you hide from your marriage or conduct it through us. I heard you the first 6 times. You also need to help while you're here. Tessa looked up. With what? With living here. I can buy groceries. That isn't all I mean. What do you want? A chore chart. I want you to clean up after yourself, help with meals, and not act as though staying here turns me into your staff. Tessa set a sweater in the drawer. Have I ever treated you like staff? June didn't answer. That was a question. I'm thinking about how honest you want me to be. Tessa pushed the drawer closed. Apparently honesty is our new family hobby. I leaned against the doorframe. It's cheaper than golf. Neither of them laughed. June stood. You have work tomorrow? Yes. You can use the bathroom first. I'm not on a schedule. The sentence sounded generous. I watched Tessa accept it without hearing the warning inside. Thank you, she said. In the garage, I turned on the workbench light and found a pair of pliers. The suitcase wheel had been knocked sideways at its mounting. I could probably straighten it without taking the whole assembly off. June appeared behind me. Did she ask you to fix that? No? Then leave it. It's tearing up the floor. Cal, I caught it before it hit the wall. That isn't the point. I put down the pliers. June stepped closer and lowered her voice. We told her she has to take responsibility for herself. You cannot follow behind repairing everything she touches. It's a suitcase wheel. It's always a suitcase wheel with you. What does that mean? It means you choose a small thing you understand so you don't have to sit with the big thing you don't. I looked at the suitcase. The big thing had clothes in our den and no idea whether she still had a marriage. I'll ask her, I said. Good. June turned toward the kitchen. Did you want me to leave the airport too? I asked. She stopped. Tessa said you told her to go. I told her I would be fine. That isn't what I asked. June looked back at me. I wanted her to choose to stay. Then she went inside. The next morning, I came downstairs at 6:30 and found June packing a lunch. She had placed turkey, lettuce, and mustard between 2 slices of wheat bread. Beside it were an apple, a folded napkin, and one of the little bags of pretzels she bought for herself. Where are you going? I asked. Nowhere. I looked at the lunch. June looked at it too. She has a meeting at 8. Does the meeting require a sandwich? She won't have time to stop. Did she ask? June put the sandwich into a reusable container. I am allowed to be kind to my daughter. I didn't say you weren't. You're standing there auditing a sandwich. I'm making coffee. The coffee maker is behind you. I turned around. It was. Tessa entered wearing a navy dress and carrying one shoe in her hand. Do either of you have bandages? These heels are trying to kill me. Bathroom drawer, June said. Tessa saw the lunch. Oh, Mom, you didn't have to do that. I know, thank you. She kissed June's cheek, found a bandage, took the lunch, and hurried out with her second shoe still unbuckled. June watched through the front window until the car left. I poured coffee. Not a word, she said. I didn't say anything. You were thinking loudly. At noon, Tessa texted June that the sandwich had saved her life. June smiled at the message. I did not point out that no boundary was violated by making a sandwich. June did not need me turning her choices into evidence either. That evening, Tessa brought home groceries. She had bought 6 kinds of sparkling water, expensive cheese, and no toilet paper. I said I'd contribute, she announced, filling our refrigerator with cans. You have, I said. If we get thirsty in France. She gave me a tired smile. She cooked pasta while June made a salad. For 20 minutes, they worked together easily. Tessa grated cheese. June complained about the price of arugula. They discussed a woman at Tessa's office who labeled her yogurt with increasingly threatening messages and still could not stop somebody from eating it. Maybe the thief can't read, June said. The thief is our vice president of sales. How do you know? I saw him. Did you say anything? No. I looked up from setting the table. Interesting. Tessa pointed the cheese grater at me. Do not turn yogurt into a character study. At dinner, her phone stayed in her purse. She told us about a presentation she had given at work. She handled communications for a medical equipment company in Dublin, which meant she spent much of her day translating sentences written by engineers into sentences other people might willingly finish. She was good at it. She could find the point inside a page of jargon and make it sound obvious. I had forgotten how funny she was when she wasn't defending herself. After we ate, she rinsed the plates and loaded the dishwasher. June stood beside the sink, surprised. What? Tessa asked. Nothing? You keep saying nothing with your eyebrows. I was going to say thank you. For doing dishes? Yes. Mom, I'm 37. I know how old you are. Then you don't have to thank me like I'm visiting royalty. June dried her hands. I will adjust my ceremony tomorrow. Tessa laughed. It was the first time the house sounded like ours since she arrived. The following night, she found me in the garage. I had not touched the suitcase. It stood beside the washing machine, the bad wheel angled outward. Can you fix this? She asked. Probably. What do you charge? An apology to the rug. The rug and I have spoken. We're moving forward. I set the case on the workbench. Tessa watched while I removed the wheel housing. One screw had stripped. I found a slightly larger one in the second drawer and widened the hole by hand. Mom said you gave her reasons to leave, she said. I kept working. She told you that? You did. I said something I shouldn't have. You can't just throw a sentence like that into a room and take it back. No? Did she leave? Once. Tessa waited. I tightened the replacement screw. For how long? 6 days? When? Long after you'd moved out. Where did she go? Colleen's. Why? I turned the wheel. It spun cleanly but wobbled at the end. I took a supervisor position without talking to her. At the transit garage? Yes. I thought she wanted you to take that. She wanted me to apply. She didn't want me to accept nights for 2 years without discussing what it meant. Tessa leaned against the dryer. That doesn't sound like Mom. What part? Leaving. She packed more quietly than you did. Did you go after her? The first night, and she wouldn't come home. Tessa folded her arms. What did you do? I got angry. Then I spent 3 days explaining to myself why I was right. After that, I went to Colleen's and asked June what would have to change. What did she say? That I had turned providing into a word that ended every argument. If I was doing something for the family, then nobody in the family was allowed to object. Tessa looked toward the door to the kitchen. Did you change? Some. I went back to days after 8 months. I should have done it sooner. What else? I started telling her before I made decisions. That seems basic. It does now. I put the wheel housing back in place. Tessa rolled the suitcase twice across the garage floor. The damaged wheel clicked once, then settled into a quiet turn. You fixed it? You asked. She looked at me. Do you think I'm like you? I think you're like both of us? That's not an answer. It's the one I have. She rolled the suitcase toward the den. At the kitchen door, she stopped. Why did Mom come back? She loved me. That's it? No. I changed enough that loving me didn't require her to disappear. Tessa stood still for a moment. Then she pulled the suitcase inside. It rolled without making a sound. Friday afternoon, June put on my stained work shirt for her second ceramics class. Tessa was home early, sitting at the table with her laptop open and a legal pad covered in crossed-out sentences. You're going again? She asked. It meets every Friday. I thought the first one was just to try it. It's a 6-week class. Oh. June gathered her keys. Tessa touched the edge of the legal pad. Ben emailed. June stopped. He wants us to meet with a marriage counselor next Wednesday. That sounds hopeful, does it? It sounds like he wants to talk with help. He also said he's not ready for me to come home. June sat in the chair across from her, but kept her keys in her hand. What are you going to say? I don't know. Tessa turned the legal pad so we could see it. 3 versions of a reply covered the page. I want that too. Sounded desperate. I'm available sounded cold. Thank you for arranging it. Sounded, according to Tessa, as if Ben were her dentist. What do you think? She asked June. June read all three versions. I think you should write what is true. I don't know what's true. Then maybe that's what you write. Tessa picked up her pen. She wrote one sentence. I want to come, and I'm afraid of what we'll say. She read it twice. Is that too much? She asked. June stood. It sounds like you. Tessa's eyes followed her toward the door. Are you leaving now? My class starts at 6. I thought we could eat after I send this. There's pasta in the refrigerator. Your father can eat with you. Tessa glanced at me, then back at June. You always used to wait until I was okay. June's hand rested on the doorknob. Yes, she said, I did. Then she went to her class. The front door clicked shut. Tessa stared at it. Was that necessary? Going to class? Leaving like that? She has a class. I heard her. I took the pasta from the refrigerator and peeled back the plastic wrap. Tessa's email remained open on the laptop. The sentence looked smaller on the screen than it had on paper. I want to come, and I'm afraid of what we'll say. You going to send that? I asked. She reached over and closed the laptop halfway. I don't know. It's true. You and Mom agree on everything now. No, we don't. You agree about me. I put the pasta in the microwave. Tessa watched the plate turn behind the little window. She could have stayed 10 minutes. She offered an answer. You wrote it down. I might need to change it. Then change it. You don't understand how Ben reads things. He reads medical research for fun. I assume he can handle one sentence. He overanalyzes? I looked at her. Don't, she said. The microwave beeped. I divided the pasta between 2 bowls. Tessa took hers to the table, reopened the laptop, and stared at the unsent email while winding noodles around her fork. Did Mom really want to leave you? She asked. Yes. Not just to make a point. She packed a bag and stayed with her sister. That's more luggage than most points require. Why didn't anybody tell me? We weren't taking a survey. I'm family. It was our marriage. She put down the fork. The answer had come out sharper than I intended, but I let it remain. Our family had spent years acting as if love granted access to every closed door. I was not innocent of that. I had called Colleen twice during those 6 days and asked her to persuade June to come home. Colleen told me to grow up. At the time, I considered it unhelpful. Tessa touched the trackpad, waking the screen. You were always working when I lived here, she said. Mom handled everything. I know. If I needed something, I called her. I know. So why is everybody acting like I invented this system? I sat across from her. We're not. It feels like you are. I benefited from it before you did. She looked up. Your mother remembered my appointments, bought gifts for my brothers, called people when I was too proud to call them myself. I said I worked long hours. That became a reason she had to do whatever I didn't. You did work long hours, yes. You kept the house running, no. I paid for a house that your mother kept running. Tessa pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Then, why didn't she say anything? She did. I heard complaints about individual things and missed what they added up to. Because she didn't tell you what they added up to. Because it was useful to miss it. The laptop dimmed again. Tessa did not touch it this time. I thought that was what love looked like, she said. Mom waiting. I looked at the empty chair where June usually sat. So did I. Tessa opened the laptop fully and sent the email. Ben answered 11 minutes later. Wednesday at 4. I'll see you there. No greeting, no comment about fear, no promise. Tessa read it 3 times and turned the computer toward me. What do you think? I think he'll see you Wednesday at 4. That's all. That's what he wrote. She shut the laptop. You really are no help. I'm beginning to understand that may be healthy. June came home carrying a narrow clay cylinder on a wooden board. Tessa looked at it. What is that? A vase. Are you sure? June set it beside the wrapped bowl. Tonight was difficult. It has personality, I said. It has a crack. Some personalities do. June took off my old shirt and draped it across the back of a chair. Underneath, she wore a black t-shirt I had not seen before. The studio name was printed across the front in white. Tessa noticed it too. You bought a shirt? It was included with the class. You hate shirts with writing. I like this one. June filled a glass with water. She looked from Tessa to me. Did you send the email? Yes, and he'll be there. June smiled. Good. That's exactly what Dad said. Your father and I occasionally recognize sentences. Tessa carried her bowl to the sink. The next morning, June took a cardboard box from the top shelf of our bedroom closet. She carried it downstairs, set it on the dining table, and began sorting through old cards. I found her with 3 stacks arranged in front of her. What are those? People I should have answered. How old are they? One has a 49-cent stamp. Send an apology and call it a collector's item. She held up a Christmas card with a lighthouse on it. Do you remember Lydia Harper? No. I was in college with her. Did I meet her? At our wedding. I met 100 people at our wedding. Half of them gave us casserole dishes. She gave us the blue serving platter. That narrows it to 99. Lydia lived outside Portland, Maine. She and June had studied ceramics together before June changed her major and eventually left college. They had exchanged cards for years, then fewer cards, then nothing except holiday greetings with brief notes squeezed beneath printed messages. Lydia had written in the last one, "If retirement ever releases you, come see the ocean from the cold side." Retirement released you, I said. June ran her thumb over the edge of the card. I called her this morning. You did? We talked for an hour. How is she? You don't remember her? I can still be polite. She's good. Divorced. Retired from the library. Still makes pottery. The card returned to the table. She invited me to visit. When? Whenever I want. I waited for June to say someday. Instead, she said, I'm thinking next month. I felt a small jolt of surprise that I tried not to show. You should go. She invited me. Not us. I heard you. You wouldn't mind? I might mind. You can still go. June studied my face. Do you want me to ask if you can come? No. That answer surprised me too. I liked Lydia already for inviting my wife instead of the pair of us. June had spent 4 decades receiving invitations addressed to Cal and June, even from people who knew her first. Tessa came into the dining room and picked up the lighthouse card. Maine? An old friend, June said. You're going? I'm considering it. By yourself? Yes. Tessa looked at me. And you're okay with that? Why wouldn't I be? Mom hates flying. I don't hate it, June said. I dislike being trapped in a metal tube operated by strangers. That is flying. I manage Charleston. Tessa set down the card. The room shifted. You weren't alone, she said. I was for the last part. Tessa's eyes dropped. June gathered the cards into the box. I'm not making a point. Lydia invited me, and I want to see her. What if the flight gets delayed? Then it gets delayed. What if you need help? I'll ask. Tessa folded her arms. You've never traveled alone. I've rarely had a reason. Now you do? Yes. The honesty of it hurt Tessa. I could see that. A trip to visit Lydia meant June had a reason that existed outside being my wife or Tessa's mother. Sounds fun, Tessa said, which meant it did not. She went upstairs. June watched her leave. You don't have to make her comfortable with it, I said. I know. Just reminding you. You're also reminding yourself. I know. The marriage counselor's office was in a brick building near Worthington. Tessa left our house at 3:15 on Wednesday, though the drive took 20 minutes. She wore the navy dress again. At the door, she turned to June. If it goes badly, can I call? Yes, and you'll answer? If I can. Tessa's mouth tightened. June touched her arm. You can tell me how you feel. You can cry. You can be angry. I am not going to explain Ben to you or tell you what to say next. I know. I need you to know before you call. I do. Tessa drove away. At 5:30, June began chopping vegetables for dinner. At 6, she put the knife down and checked her phone. At 6:30, she put the vegetables in the refrigerator without cooking them. She'll call, I said. I know. At 7:12, the front door opened. Tessa came in carrying her heels. Her face was blotchy, and she had a tissue crumpled in one fist. June went to her. Tessa held up a hand. Don't hug me yet. June stopped. I stayed at the kitchen table. Tessa placed her shoes near the stairs with careful precision. He wants another month. June's hand moved to her mouth. Another month apart? She asked. Yes. What did the counselor say? The counselor thinks we need to learn to have a marriage with 2 people in it. Tessa laughed, but the sound broke. Apparently, I form coalitions. June did not speak. She asked how often I discuss our arguments with you. Ben had examples, dates, Mom. He remembered dates. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Tessa, you agree with him. I agree that I became too involved. You became involved because I needed you, and it has not helped. So now both of you get to say, I'm the problem. Did Ben say he had no part in it? He said he avoids conflict until he explodes or leaves. He said showing up at the airport with flowers was unfair because it forced an emotional conversation in public. That sounds like he took responsibility. Tessa stared at her. You weren't there. No, you don't know his tone. No. He made me sound manipulative. June sat in the chair across from her. Are you asking if I think you manipulate people? Tessa's face changed. Do you? June took a breath. Sometimes. Tessa stood. I felt myself begin to rise and made myself stay seated. Give me an example, Tessa said. When you told me Ben might leave immediately after I set a boundary with you. He did leave, 2 days later. So now the timing was manipulative? I think you knew I would feel guilty. I was terrified. Both can be true. Tessa's voice rose. You think I planned my marriage falling apart to win an argument? No, that's what you're saying. I'm saying you know what frightens me, and sometimes you use it to pull me where you want me. Tessa looked at me. Are you hearing this? Yes. And? You asked her. She turned back to June. You've changed. I am trying to. You keep saying that like the old you was weak. The old me loved you. Past tense. June recoiled as if Tessa had struck the table between them. Tess, I said. No, she said it. I love you now, June said. But not enough to be there when I need you. I am right here. Doing what? Naming everything wrong with me? June's eyes filled. Tessa picked up her shoes. I should have stayed at a hotel. She went upstairs. The den door closed. June remained at the table. After a while, she opened her hand. The edge of Lydia's lighthouse card had left a red line across her palm. She must have been holding it since before Tessa came home. Her phone lay beside it, open to an airline schedule. She had chosen a flight to Maine. She had not bought it yet. June looked toward the stairs, then back at the screen. This time, she pressed the button. The confirmation page appeared. June stared at it. Done? I asked. She nodded. When do you leave? 5 weeks from Thursday. How long? 6 days. I moved my chair beside hers and looked at the itinerary. Columbus to Portland, non-stop going out. One connection in Baltimore coming back. You'll hate the connection, I know. You could take the non-stop in both directions. It costs another $180. You're allowed to spend money on a trip. I know. She said it in the tone that meant knowing and believing had not yet met. The den door opened upstairs. Tessa came down slowly. She had changed into my Ohio State sweatshirt and washed off her makeup. Her eyes went to the screen. What did you buy? A ticket to Maine, June said. You did it tonight? Yes. Right now? Just now. Tessa came closer and read over her shoulder. That's before the month is over. June turned in the chair. What month? The month Ben asked for? You'll have another counseling appointment before then. That isn't what I meant. I know. Tessa crossed her arms. So, you're going to be gone while I'm still living here? It's 6 days. You don't even know Lydia anymore. We talked for an hour. Once. We knew each other for years. 40 years ago. June closed the laptop. I want to go. Tessa's eyes filled again. You keep saying that? Like wanting something makes everybody else irrelevant. The sentence came back through the kitchen wearing different clothes. June had said something similar about Tessa at the airport. I could see June recognize it too. I don't think you're irrelevant, she said. It feels like you're proving you can leave. Maybe I am proving it to myself. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. I started to speak. June glanced at me, and I stopped. She faced Tessa again. I spent a long time making my choices around what might upset somebody else. That was my responsibility. I did not tell you what I wanted, and then I resented you for not knowing. That was unfair. Tessa's arms loosened. But I'm telling you now, June continued. I want to see Lydia. I want to try traveling alone. I'm allowed to want that even while you are hurting. You're making it sound like I stopped you before. You didn't know there was anything to stop, because you never said. Yes. So, how is that my fault? It isn't. But once I say it, you have to hear me. Tessa looked at the closed laptop. Are you scared of flying, of going alone? Yes. Then why do it? June smiled faintly. Those are not the same question anymore. Tessa wiped under one eye. Can I go back upstairs without this counting as manipulation? Yes, June said. Tessa turned away, then stopped at the bottom step. I don't think the old you was weak. June did not answer before Tessa went upstairs. The first bowl came out of the kiln the following Friday. June brought it home in a paper bag and set it in the middle of the kitchen table. The glaze was blue-gray, lighter at the rim and nearly black in one deep streak. It still leaned. It's good, I said. It's crooked. I said good, not level. She turned it slowly. There's a thumbprint here. Whose? Mine. Then we can identify the body. She laughed and put 3 apples in it. All 3 rolled to the low side. Well, she said, efficient storage. Tessa came in while we were examining the apples. She had attended her second counseling appointment with Ben that afternoon and had not called on the way home. She set down her purse. The bowl survived. So far, June said. Tessa ran one finger along the rim. I like the crooked part. You don't have to. I do. It looks intentional. It wasn't. That doesn't mean you hide it. June looked at her. Tessa took an apple and went to change clothes. After dinner, she told us the appointment had gone better. She did not give us every sentence. That absence felt strange at first, like watching a movie with a section cut out. June waited for more. When none came, she asked, How do you feel? Sad, Tessa said, but not confused. June nodded. That was all. Tessa helped clear the table. The month of separation gave our house a new set of habits. Tessa left for work before 8. She bought groceries on Thursdays, now including toilet paper. She cooked twice a week and complained that our knives were dull. I sharpened them. June asked if Tessa had requested it. She nearly cut off a thumb. That was an onion. The onion won. Tessa cleaned the bathroom on Saturdays. The first time, she emerged holding a bottle of shower cleaner and asked why anyone would design a nozzle that sprayed backward. June told her she had been asking that since 2009. They laughed. Then Tessa said, You could have told me I never helped enough. June replied, You didn't live here. The conversation could have become another hearing. Instead, Tessa nodded and went back to the bathroom. Not every improvement lasted. Some evenings she came home from counseling furious and shut herself in the den. Once she accused June of being unusually cheerful after Ben said he wanted to keep separate bank accounts if they reconciled. June reminded her that she had been laughing at something Nadine said, not celebrating financial distance. Another night, Tessa left 3 draft messages on the kitchen table and went upstairs, hoping June would edit them without being asked. June stacked them neatly beside Tessa's laptop and did not write a word. By morning, Tessa had sent her own version. Ben called me on a Tuesday while I was replacing a loose hinge on the back gate. Am I interrupting? He asked. Yes, I can call back. You'll interrupt something then too. There was a pause. Okay. I set the screwdriver on the fence post. How are you? I've been better, I assumed. He exhaled. Is Tessa there? She's at work. I know. I meant, is she still staying with you? Yes. How is she doing? You have counseling tomorrow. I'm not asking you to tell me what she says about me. You're asking me to report on her. I'm asking if she's eating and sleeping. She eats. I don't monitor her sleep. I didn't mean... I know what you meant. The gate swung inward and tapped my knee. Ben was silent for a moment. Could you talk to her about the month? He asked. No? You don't know what I was going to say. You were going to ask me to explain why you need more time. Another silence. The counselor thinks I should be clear, he said. I'm trying to be clear without making her feel rejected. Then say that to her. She hears rejection before I finish. Then finish anyway. You make it sound easy. No, I make it sound like yours. He gave a tired laugh. I guess that's fair. I picked up the screwdriver but did not begin working. Ben, why didn't you turn around? At the airport? Yes. He breathed out slowly. I told myself June had a ride coming. You knew she didn't. I knew Tessa was supposed to arrange one. That isn't a ride, I know. Did June ask you to leave? She told Tessa it was fine. That isn't what I asked? No? She didn't ask me anything. I waited. He said, the restaurant was going to give away the table. I looked at the hinge in my hand. That table must have been something. It sounds awful when you say it. It was awful before I said it. I thought if Tessa and I could talk somewhere neutral, we could stop things from getting worse. I'd planned what I wanted to say. The flowers, dinner, no phones. It felt like our last chance. And June. I saw her standing there. I thought she was the one person who would understand. Understand what? That we needed to go. The gate tapped my knee again. You and Tessa made the same calculation, I said. June was the safest person to disappoint. Ben did not defend himself. I'm ashamed of that, he said. Tell her. I will. Tell Tessa too. I don't want to use it to make what she did smaller. Then don't. He thanked me for answering, which was more courtesy than the call deserved. When Tessa got home, I told her he had called. She was standing at the counter eating cheese over the sink. What did he want? To know how you were and to ask me to help explain why he needs more time. What did you say? No? She stopped chewing. You refused? I told him to talk to you. What else? He told me the truth about the airport. Tessa lowered the cheese. I repeated the conversation as closely as I could, including the restaurant and the flowers and the part about June being the person they both expected to understand. Tessa leaned back against the counter. He said he was ashamed. Yes, he never told me that. Maybe he will. Did you ask him to? Yes. She looked toward the living room, where June was on the phone with Lydia, discussing whether Maine in November required boots or only regrettable shoes. He didn't turn around either, Tessa said. No. Mom hasn't been angry at him. You don't know that. She hasn't said anything. That has never been reliable evidence with your mother. Tessa rubbed one hand over her forehead. Do you think she blames me more because I'm her daughter? I think you could hurt her more because you're her daughter. That's not the same thing. No. June entered carrying the lighthouse card and a page of handwritten travel notes. Tessa looked at her. Ben called Dad. June stopped. I told her what he had admitted. She listened without interrupting, then placed the travel notes on the table. I thought he knew, she said. He did, Tessa replied. I thought he knew you were coming back. Tessa's eyes went red. I told him I'd get you a car, but you didn't. No? June pulled out a chair. Tessa sat across from her. For once, she did not explain. I'm sorry, she said. Not because Ben left. Not because Dad is angry. I'm sorry I saw you sitting there and made your waiting less important than my panic. June looked down at her hands. Tessa continued before fear could turn the apology into another argument. I knew you'd say it was fine. I think part of me asked because I knew you would. And then I used your answer against you. June's mouth trembled. I did say it was fine. You shouldn't have had to prove it wasn't. For a few seconds, the only sound was Lydia's voice still faintly coming from June's phone on the counter. June reached across the table. Tessa took her hand. Neither of them called it fixed. June's phone called her name from the counter. June, Lydia's distant voice said. Did I lose you? June laughed through her tears and released Tessa's hand. No, I'm here. Tessa stood. Call her back. I can talk now. Mom, you've been waiting 40 years to discuss boots with this woman. 38. That's much better. June picked up the phone and carried it into the living room. Tessa remained at the table. You okay? I asked. No. It was the first time I had heard her use the word without turning it into an emergency. She wiped her cheeks and gathered Lydia's travel notes into a neat stack. But I think that was the right thing to say. It was. I still want her to tell me it's okay. I know. Is she going to? Eventually, maybe. That's not very reassuring. It isn't supposed to be. Tessa gave me a tired look, then smiled despite herself. You're enjoying your new philosophy. I'm considering a pamphlet. She returned the notes to the counter. Her next counseling appointment with Ben lasted almost 2 hours. She came home afterward carrying takeout from a Thai restaurant and announced that nobody was discussing the marriage until she had eaten something. June made rice. I set the table. Tessa told us about traffic, work, and the vice president of sales, who had finally admitted to stealing her yogurt because he thought the handwritten warnings were jokes. What did you do? June asked. I put his name on one and left it in the refrigerator. Was it poisoned? I asked. It was coconut. Same thing. Only after dinner did Tessa tell us she and Ben had agreed she would return home the following weekend. They would continue counseling. No location sharing. No looking at each other's phones. No calling relatives during an argument unless they first said they were taking a break. She recited the agreements without asking whether we approved. June listened with both hands wrapped around her tea. How do you feel? She asked. Hopeful, Tessa said, and terrified. Both sound reasonable. I also feel stupid that we needed a counselor to tell us not to recruit a jury. Sometimes it helps to hear a thing from somebody who hasn't loved you long enough to make allowances. Tessa looked at her. Was that about me or Dad? Yes, June said. I took our plates to the sink. Ben came to the house that Saturday. He stood on the porch holding no flowers, which I appreciated. He wore jeans and a dark jacket and looked as if he had lost 10 pounds in places a man should not lose them. Tessa was upstairs packing. June opened the door. Can I talk to you? He asked her. She looked at me. I can go to the garage, I said. Stay, June replied. Ben stepped inside. The three of us stood in the entry, arranged badly around the rug that had nearly taken down Tessa's suitcase. I owe you an apology, he said. June waited. I knew Tessa didn't have a ride arranged for you. I told myself she would order one as soon as we got downtown. Then the restaurant called about the reservation, and I didn't remind her. You could have turned around. Yes? Why didn't you? Because I thought the dinner would fix something. Did it? For about 3 hours. June nodded. Ben put his hands in his jacket pockets, then took them out again. I saw you standing there, he said. You were holding both bags. I knew you were expecting us to come back. I was afraid if I stopped the moment with Tessa, I'd lose my chance to say what I had planned. So, you needed me to understand. Yes. You did not ask me to. No. You let Tessa do that part. Ben looked down. Yes. June took a breath. Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm sorry. I believe you. He looked up, hopeful. That does not make the choice smaller, she said. His face settled again. I know. Tessa came down carrying 2 empty garment bags. She stopped when she saw us. What's happening? I apologized to your mother, Ben said. Tessa looked at June. June gave a small nod. Without me? Tessa asked. Ben almost laughed, then saw she was serious. Yes. Without you. A flush moved up Tessa's neck. Good, she said after a moment. That's good. It clearly did not feel good. Ben had a relationship with her mother that did not pass through her. Even his apology was something she could not control. But she let it stand. We ate lunch together. June made sandwiches, but this time she put the bread and fillings on the counter and told everybody to make their own. Ben reached for mustard at the same time Tessa did. They apologized to each other with such careful politeness that I wanted to leave the room. Nobody discussed counseling. Nobody asked June what Ben meant. When it was time to go, Tessa carried the overnight bag. Ben took the garment bags. I lifted the blue suitcase from the den and set it on the floor. I can take it, Ben said. She can, I replied. Tessa looked at me. Then she took the handle. The repaired wheel rolled smoothly through the entry. Upstairs, the green blouse still lay on our dresser. Wait, June said. She went to get it and returned with the blouse folded over her arm. This got mixed in with my things. Tessa touched the fabric. I wondered where it was. June handed it to her. Tessa did not say she had been afraid to ask. She did not need to. She laid the blouse across the top of the suitcase and zipped it inside. At the porch, she hugged me first. Thank you for letting me stay. You bought toilet paper. We're even. She held on a second longer. Then she hugged June. Neither woman said anything. Ben stood by the car, looking politely toward the street. Tessa pulled her suitcase down the walk. The wheel made no sound. The house felt larger after they left. The den smelled faintly of Tessa's perfume and the lemon cleaner she had used on Saturdays. A coffee mug sat on the desk beside the couch, empty except for a pale ring at the bottom. June picked it up. I thought she was cleaning up after herself, I said. She improved. That is not the same thing. It rarely is. She carried the mug to the kitchen. For several days we kept expecting to hear the den door open. June cooked too much food. I set 3 places at the table once and removed one before she saw it. On Friday, she went to ceramics in her own shirt. Mine had developed a stiff gray patch that no amount of washing removed. Tessa called while June was at the studio. I saw her name and braced myself. Everything all right? I asked. Yes. Why do you answer like that? History. I'm calling Mom. She has clay on her hands. Oh, right. Friday. There was a pause. Is something wrong? I asked. No. I wanted to tell her the yogurt thief brought me 3 replacements. That's an admission of guilt. He said it was an apology. Depends on the flavors. 2 strawberry, 1 peach. Insufficient. Tessa laughed. Tell Mom I called. I will. And tell her it wasn't about Ben. I will include that in the official report. She called June the next morning and spoke to her for 20 minutes about work. a jacket she was considering, and a restaurant Ben wanted to try. She did not ask June whether the restaurant meant anything. The change was so small I nearly missed how difficult it was. June's flight approached. She checked the weather in Maine every morning and added items to a list on the refrigerator: boots, gloves, portable charger, medication, book. She crossed out book and wrote 2 books. I read the list while she made coffee. You know Portland has stores. I don't want to spend the trip buying things I own. What if Lydia owns books? Not my books. I reached for a pen and wrote emergency granola. June crossed it out. I wrote it again at the bottom. She left it. I tried not to organize the trip for her. This required more effort than organizing it would have. I did not print the boarding pass. I did not check the seat map. I did not call Lydia to confirm the address. When June asked if 45 minutes was enough for her connection in Baltimore, I said, "What do you think?" She stared at me. "Don't use my growth against me," I said. "I think it's enough." Then it's enough. One night, while she arranged clothes on the bed, I saw how much of our marriage had rested on June preparing for both of us. She packed the toothpaste. She remembered chargers. She knew which jacket I would wish I had brought after insisting I did not need it. "You're not putting anything in my suitcase," she said. "I know. You're hovering. I'm observing. From 6 inches away." I sat on the edge of the bed. She folded a sweater. "I owe you an apology," I said. June looked at me over the sweater. "For hovering? For making you useful before I made you visible." She sat beside me. I named what I could remember: accepting the night shift, volunteering her to coordinate meals when my mother was ill, letting her write birthday cards to my brothers, and signing my name as if affection had been a joint project, telling people she was the glue of the family without asking how it felt to spend a life holding things that pulled in opposite directions. "I thought thanking you made it fair," I said. "Sometimes it did, not often enough." "No." I rubbed my palms against my knees. "I don't want Maine to become another test you have to pass." "What kind of test?" "Proving you can do without me." June folded the sweater again, though it did not need it. "I don't want to do without you." "I know. I want to know I can go somewhere and come back because I chose both." I nodded. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "I also liked being needed," she said. "There were times I offered before anybody asked. It made me feel safe. That doesn't excuse us. No. But don't turn me into the innocent one so you can be guilty properly." I laughed. She lifted her head. "I mean it. I know. You just make guilt sound like a hobby I'd organize in the garage. You would label the shelves with dates." Her phone rang on the nightstand. "Tessa," June answered. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Tessa said. "I'm not calling about Ben." June put the phone on speaker. "I wanted to ask about your flight." "What about it?" "Can I take you to the airport?" June looked at me. I gave her nothing. No nod, no warning, no answer shaped like concern. Tessa continued before the silence could decide for her. "I know Dad can take you. I know you might rather drive yourself and leave the car. I'm not assuming. I'm asking." June looked down at the folded sweater in her lap. "Your father is coming with us," she said. "Of course. And if there's a delay, nobody has to wait." Tessa was quiet. Then she said, "I'd still like to take you." June closed her eyes for a moment. "All right," she said. "You can take me." Tessa arrived 14 minutes early. I knew because I had been standing at the front window since 20 minutes before that. June came down the stairs carrying a small rolling suitcase and wearing the expression she used before medical appointments: calm from the eyebrows down. "You're hovering again," she said. "I'm looking outside." "At what?" "Your ride. She has a name. Tessa is outside." June stopped on the last step. Tessa had parked in the driveway instead of waiting at the curb. She got out, opened the back of her car, and walked toward the house. "She came in," June said. "That's how doors work." Cal. "I'm nervous too." June reached for my hand. Tessa knocked once and entered before either of us answered. "Good morning. Are we ready?" She wore jeans, a red sweater, and flat boots. Her hair was tied back. In one hand, she carried a cardboard tray with 3 coffees. June looked at the cups. "Yours is tea," Tessa said. "Plain black." I remembered. June took it. "You didn't have to." "I know." Tessa looked at the suitcase. "Is that everything?" "Yes." "Passport?" "I'm going to Maine. Identification?" In my purse. Medication? Yes. Portable charger? June looked at the list on the refrigerator. I did too. The portable charger was still plugged into the wall. Tessa unplugged it and held it out. June took it. Thank you. I carried the suitcase to the car. June let me. The drive to the airport took 35 minutes. Tessa kept the radio low and did not ask June whether she was frightened. They discussed Lydia's guest room, the weather forecast, and whether lobster rolls in cold weather were an act of confidence or poor planning. Lydia says, "There's no wrong weather for lobster," June said. "People say that about things they want tourists to buy," I replied. Tessa glanced at me through the mirror. Dad thinks seafood should apologize for arriving cold. Food should know what season it is. June held her tea with both hands. The cup lid trembled a little at every stoplight. When the airport signs appeared, she became quiet. Tessa moved into the parking lane. "Departures is left," June said. "I know. You're going toward the garage. I'm parking. You don't need to park. You can drop us off. I want to walk in." June looked at me. I looked out the window. Tessa found a space on the 4th level, near the same row where I had parked the night of Charleston. I recognized the red C painted on the concrete pillar. C4. June recognized it too. Nobody mentioned it. Tessa lifted the suitcase out of the back and set it on all 4 wheels. It rolled perfectly. We crossed the garage together, June between us. Inside, the terminal was bright and crowded. The arrival screens worked. People stood in small islands around luggage, cups, and coats. A man argued quietly with a kiosk. Somebody's zipper had burst near the check-in line, and socks were spread across the floor like surrender flags. June checked her bag, though it was small enough to carry. She wanted fewer things to manage its security. The agent attached the tag. "Portland," he said. "Looks like you have a weather delay." "How long?" June asked. "Right now, 90 minutes. Her hand tightened around the claim ticket. Could change either way. Tessa checked the airline app. It says 11:45 now. June looked toward security, then back toward the parking garage. "You two should go." "We just got here," Tessa said. "There's no reason to sit for 2 hours. We can have breakfast. I ate. You drank half a cup of tea. That counts as breakfast after 60. "It does not." June turned to me. "Cal, tell her she can leave." "You can leave," I told Tessa. Tessa nodded. "Thank you. I'm staying." June gave me a look. "You told me to tell her she could. You knew what I meant." "I'm trying to stop doing that." We found a diner on the public side of security. Every table was occupied except one near a window overlooking a service road. We sat beneath a framed photograph of an airplane from 1968, back when boarding a flight apparently required a suit, a hat, and no visible fear. June ordered toast. Tessa ordered eggs. I ordered oatmeal because both of them looked surprised when I did. "You hate oatmeal," June said. "I'm expanding. You'll put sugar in it. That is not your concern anymore. It's still my concern if I have to watch." The food arrived. I put sugar in the oatmeal. For half an hour, we talked about anything except the last time June had sat in that airport. Tessa described a new campaign at work. June showed us photographs Lydia had sent of the rocky beach near her house. I complained that the diner had charged $4 for coffee, and then accepted a refill. At 11, the flight moved to 12:20. June read the notification. "Now you really should go." Tessa folded her napkin. "Do you want me to go?" "That isn't what I said." "I'm asking." June looked through the window. A baggage cart crossed below us, pulling 6 empty trailers. "I don't want you to feel obligated to wait." "I feel obligated." June's mouth tightened. Tessa saw it. "That came out wrong," she said. "I don't mean obligated like you're a job." "What do you mean? I said I would take you to the airport." "You did. I want to finish doing it. Taking me here is finished. For you, maybe." June pushed her plate away. Tessa rubbed one thumb along the edge of the table. "I know staying today doesn't change what I did before. No, I'm not trying to trade hours. What are you trying to do?" Tessa looked at me. I picked up my coffee. "I'm right here," I said, "but I can become very interested in that airplane photograph if required." June almost smiled. Tessa's eyes returned to her mother. "I need to tell you something about that night." June became still. "You already apologized. I left part out." My hand stopped halfway to the coffee. Tessa looked at the table. When Ben pulled up, I knew he wanted to leave right away. He had already called the restaurant. The table was only being held for 15 minutes. June waited. I asked if you were okay, because I knew you would say yes. I didn't ask because I wasn't sure. I asked because I wanted permission. I gave it. You gave me the answer I had trained you to give. June's eyes moved to me, then back. Tessa continued. I told you I'd circle because if I said, I'm going downtown and I don't know when I'll be back, you might have stopped me, or Dad might have called before we got out of the garage. You knew you weren't coming back? I knew I probably wasn't. The diner continued around us. Plates clattered. A server called somebody honey. A coffee grinder started behind the counter, loud enough to interrupt but not rescue anyone. June's face had gone pale. I called you, she said. I know. You didn't answer. I saw the first call. Tessa pressed both palms flat against the table. Ben had just started talking. He said he didn't know if he could stay married to me. Your name came up on my screen, and I turned the phone face down. June looked toward the window. The second time, I put it in my purse. You knew I was still there? Yes. And you let me keep thinking you were coming? Yes. Tessa's voice had become quiet, stripped of everything that usually arrived around it. At dinner, I told Ben you were getting a car. I had not ordered one. I kept thinking I would do it after he finished the next sentence. Then food came, then we started talking about counseling. By the time I checked, you had stopped calling, because I called your father. I know. You texted after he picked me up. I wrote the excuse before I wrote that I was sorry. June's eyes filled. Tessa did not reach for her. I wrote that Ben was too upset to drive because it sounded better than the truth, she said. The truth was, I thought my marriage was more breakable than you were. I knew you would wait, and I used that. The question from the first night came back to me. How long had June sat under those dead screens before calling? 47 minutes. Not because she had no one else. Because she still believed the promise. June folded her arms around herself. I was angry with myself for believing you, she said. You shouldn't have been. I taught you that I would absorb anything. You taught me you loved me. They became the same thing. For me, Tessa said, I made them the same thing. June wiped one cheek. I don't want you waiting here today because you think suffering beside me makes it even. That isn't why. Some of it is. Yes. The answer surprised June. Tessa leaned back. Some of it is guilt. I'm not going to pretend I've become perfect at motives, but I also want to stay because you're nervous, because your flight is delayed, and because I like being with you when we're not trying to save my life. June looked down. I don't want to save your life, she said. I know that now. I want to be in it. I know that too. The airline app chimed again. 12:50. I turned the phone so both of them could see. June laughed once, wet and tired. This flight is never leaving. It will, I said. How do you know? Airlines hate storing people. Tessa reached across the table, stopping her hand halfway. Can I? June looked at the hand, then she took it. At noon, June decided to go through security. The flight might move earlier, and she wanted time to find the gate without rushing. We stood near the entrance to the line. She adjusted her purse strap 4 times. Identification? Tessa asked. June touched the outside pocket. Charger? I asked. Both of you stop. We stopped. June looked at me. You'll call when you land? I asked. Yes. If Baltimore changes, I know how to read a gate. I was going to say, call the airline. You were not. No? She kissed me. Her mouth trembled. You can still come with me, she whispered. For 6 days? For the flight? I smiled. You can do the flight. That wasn't the question. I know. She pressed her forehead briefly against mine. Then she hugged Tessa. Tessa held on, but she did not make the hug longer than June wanted. I love you, Tessa said. I love you too. June joined the security line. Halfway to the scanners, she looked back. Tessa and I were still there. She shook her head, smiling, and kept going. We found seats near the windows on the public side of the terminal. Tessa put the flight tracker between us. Ben called. She answered without leaving. Hey! I could hear only pieces of his voice. Her flight's delayed, Tessa said. No, she's through security. Dad and I are staying until she takes off. Another pause. I don't know how long. She listened. No, it's okay. Start without me. I'll be late. She did not invent a reason. She did not apologize for the truth. When she ended the call, I asked, Dinner? Counseling. You'll miss it? He moved it to 1:30 so we could have lunch first. We thought Mom would be gone by 11. You should go. Tessa watched a plane taxi toward the runway. Do you want me to? I don't want you missing something important to prove a point. She looked at me. That sounds familiar. I learned slowly. She checked the time. If she left immediately, she could make most of the appointment. Her phone chimed. A message from June. Boarding started. Tessa stood. For 1 second, I thought she had decided to go. Instead, she called Ben back. I'm not going to make it, she said. Can we reschedule? She listened. Thank you. I'll call when her plane leaves. She sat beside me again. You didn't have to do that, I said. I know. On the other side of the glass, a plane turned toward the runway. June's message appeared beneath the first, in my seat. Window. Terrified, happy. Tessa read it over my shoulder. I typed, proud of you, then deleted it. I wrote, we're here. June answered with a heart. The flight tracker changed from boarding to gate, closed. Tessa set the phone between us. We waited. The flight remained at the gate for another 23 minutes. The app showed a tiny airplane pointed north, though the real airplane had not moved at all. Tessa refreshed the screen often enough to become angry at the circle that appeared while it loaded. Refreshing won't push it, I said. I know. You're doing it again. I know. She put the phone face down between us. 2 minutes later, it vibrated. June had sent a picture of the wing. Looks attached. I laughed. Tessa leaned over. What did she say? I showed her. Tell her the bolts look loose. She will get off the plane. Fine. Tell her it's beautiful. I wrote, Tessa says the bolts look loose. 3 dots appeared immediately. Tell Tessa I still know where she lives. Tessa smiled. A woman seated across from us had been watching. First flight? She asked. My wife's first flight alone, I said. The woman nodded toward Tessa. Your mother? Yes. She'll be fine. We know, Tessa said. The woman returned to her book. Tessa looked through the window. Everybody keeps saying that. Your mother trained us. Do you think she was really fine in Charleston? No. I mean, before the airport, I don't think she had a good weekend. That isn't what I asked. I leaned back in the airport chair. No, I said. I don't think she was fine. Tessa nodded. I made the whole trip about Ben. Yes. You could pretend to consider other answers. I did that for 37 years. She nudged my shoe with hers. The flight tracker changed to taxiing. We both picked up the phone. Through the glass, planes moved beyond 2 low buildings. We could not tell which one was June's. A silver tail disappeared, another appeared, and then a plane rose above the roofline at the far end of the terminal. Tessa stood. Is that hers? I don't know. It's going north. So are several places. The little airplane on the screen had moved away from the terminal. Airborne. Tessa pressed her lips together. There she goes, I said. We stayed at the window until the plane was only a pale shape against the clouds, whether it was June's or not. On the way back through the garage, Tessa slowed beside the red C4 pillar. I remember that suitcase, she said. I'm glad. It was memorable. I mean, I remember leaving it with her. I unlocked the car. She offered to hold my carry-on while I talked to Ben. Then I put the big bag beside her, too. She protected it. I knew she would. Tessa stood with one hand on the car door. When you found her, what did she say? That I made good time. What else? She told me not to be mad before we got in the truck. Tessa closed her eyes. She was protecting me. Yes. Did you know why? No, I knew there was a why. She got behind the wheel. At the garage exit, she handed the attendant the parking ticket. The amount on the display was ridiculous. $32, she said. You wanted to stay. I'm not complaining. You're using a complaining voice. I'm observing aggressively. She paid. On the highway, she called Ben through the car. Her plane took off, she said. He asked something. No, Dad's with me. Another pause. I know we missed the appointment. I'm sorry. She listened. Can we go tomorrow? Whatever Ben said made her shoulders settle. Okay. 6 works. She ended the call. He rescheduled, she told me. I heard. He was upset. I heard that too. But he didn't punish me for it. What would punishment look like? Not answering. Saying it was fine and then being cold for 3 days. Agreeing to go tomorrow, but making sure I knew I ruined today. Things you've both done? Yes. She changed lanes. I told him why I stayed, she said. He understood. Good. Do you think I used Mom to avoid counseling? No. You answered fast. I've had practice. June called from Portland 4 hours later. The plane had landed smoothly. She had found her bag, found Lydia, and found the correct door out of the terminal without asking anyone to rescue her. Lydia is waving, she said. She claims you'll remember her. Tell her I remember the platter. Lydia's voice came through the phone. He never liked that platter. I liked it. You called it a bird bath. It was large. June laughed. That sound followed me through the empty house after we hung up. For 6 days she sent photographs. A gray ocean pounding rocks beneath a gray sky. Lydia's pottery studio with shelves full of bowls that leaned because somebody intended them to. A lobster roll the size of June's forearm. Her boots covered in mud. A photograph of herself in front of a lighthouse. Hair blown across her face, smiling with her whole mouth. I missed her. The first night, I reached for the phone 3 times before deciding I had nothing to ask except whether she missed me too. I knew she did. I also knew asking might make her responsible for proving it. So I sent a picture of my dinner. June replied, "Is that cereal?" I wrote, "It has raisins." She called immediately. "Eat something hot," she said. "I knew you missed me. I miss you enough to want you alive." The Baltimore connection on her return was delayed. She called from the gate. "I have 50 minutes," she said. "You can make it. I know. Do you want me to look up the terminal map?" "No?" "Good. You sound disappointed. I have the map open." She laughed. "Close it." I closed it. Her gait changed while we were talking. June read the new number from the screen, followed the signs, and called back when she reached it. "I did not need you," she said. "I noticed. I wanted to tell you anyway. That was different." When she landed in Columbus, Tessa and I were waiting at the bottom of the escalator. We had arrived early. Tessa had checked the flight before leaving home, again from the parking garage, and once beside baggage claim. "I am being prepared," she said when I noticed. "You're circling the border of prepared." June appeared above us, wearing the same coat that had been smudged on the airport floor. This time, it was buttoned. Her purse crossed her body. She held the escalator rail with one hand and waved with the other. She looked tired. She also looked like she had gone somewhere. Tessa reached her first. "How was the connection?" "Awful. Did you run?" I walked very quickly with dignity. June hugged her. "I'm glad you're home," Tessa said. "I'm glad to be home." I hugged June next. She smelled like cold air and airport coffee. "You made good time," she whispered. I held her tighter. Her suitcase arrived without incident. Tessa lifted it from the carousel, but only after asking. In the parking garage, June took a small paper package from her purse and handed it to Tessa. "For me?" Lydia made it. Inside was a ceramic cup glazed green and brown, with a thumb-sized dent near the handle. "It isn't perfect," June said. Tessa ran her finger over the dent. "I like that part. I thought you might." For me, June had brought a knitted hat that made my head look like a jar. I wore it home. June unpacked her own suitcase. I stayed downstairs. This may not sound like much, but every few minutes I caught myself starting toward the stairs to ask if she wanted help. I made coffee instead. She came down carrying the blue-gray bowl from her first class. "What are you doing with that?" "Lydia says the glaze is food safe. We've been eating the apples. I mean, for hot food." She filled it with soup that evening. The soup collected on the low side, but the bowl held. Tessa and Ben did not become different people because June flew to Maine. They attended counseling the next day and argued in the parking lot afterward. Tessa called June from her car. "Can you talk?" "Yes." "I'm angry at Ben. Do you want me to listen or help?" Tessa was quiet. "Listen," she said. June listened for 10 minutes. Tessa explained that Ben wanted Christmas morning to remain private this year instead of starting at our house. She thought he was using boundaries to separate her from us. "What do you think?" she asked. June looked at me across the kitchen. "You asked me to listen." "I know. Do you want to change that?" Another pause. "No. I need to talk to him again." "All right." Tessa called the following evening, not to report what Ben said, but to ask if Christmas dinner at our house was something June actually wanted. June said no. Tessa said, "Okay." They decided to host dinner themselves later in the day. They invited us, Colleen, Mara, and no one else. Tessa asked before assigning food. June offered dessert. I volunteered rolls and received 3 separate warnings not to bake them. I bought them. Cam returned to our family in uneven pieces. Ben stopped calling me to check on Tessa. Once he called to ask whether a loose sound in his dryer meant the belt was going. I told him it probably did and talked him through opening the back panel. Tessa no longer left drafts of messages where June might find them. She occasionally started to ask what Ben meant, caught herself, and changed the question to what June was doing. June finished the 6-week ceramics class and enrolled in another. The narrow vase with the crack did not survive firing. She brought home the pieces and put them in the trash. "You're not keeping them?" I asked. "It broke. You kept the bowl. The bowl works." There was a difference between honoring damage and building a museum for it. I did not say that out loud. I was learning. At Christmas dinner, Tessa made lemon chicken. The sauce broke. June saw it happening and started to rise from her chair. Tessa held up the spoon. "I know. You can fix it with—" "I know, Mom." June sat down. Ben tasted the sauce. "It's good. It looks terrible. It tastes good. That isn't the same." "No," June said, "but it can be enough." We ate at their table. Tessa had forgotten to warm the rolls. Colleen told a long story about the neighbor with the cowboy hat. Mara used periods in every text and turned out not to be angry with anyone. After dinner, Ben and Tessa disagreed about when to serve dessert. It began with the refrigerator being full and ended briefly with Tessa accusing him of correcting her in front of people. Everyone at the table became interested in their plates. Tessa looked at June. June looked back. For 1 second, the old invitation passed between them. Then Tessa turned to Ben. "That came out bigger than it was," she said. "I'm embarrassed because the dinner isn't going how I planned." Ben put down the pie server. "I wasn't correcting you. I was trying to make room." "I know. Do you want to wait on dessert?" "Yes." "All right." The argument ended without a committee. June reached for my hand beneath the table. On the drive home, she rested her head against the passenger window. "You were quiet tonight," she said. "Nobody asked me to fix anything. Did you like it?" "I'm adjusting." She smiled. At home, the blue-gray bowl sat on the kitchen table with 2 apples gathered at its lowest side. June's phone chimed as she took off her coat. Tessa had sent a photograph of the clean table. Dinner survived. June typed, "So did we." Then she set the phone down without waiting for an answer. I put on the kettle. She sat beside the crooked bowl, reached across the table, and took my hand.